Sign up to Council's disaster and weather event warning system. Receive alerts about emergency news, severe weather events and other public safety alerts via SMS or email. Registering to the disaster messaging system is free. To register, visit Gladstone Regional Council's Region Watch website and click on the Register for Warnings button. Get ready, Gladstone. Take the steps to protect what's most important to you. Let's be better prepared and protected for emergencies and disasters.
Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify.
I really like the variety because there's a lot of different parts of our region, and particularly in disaster space, I like that we're there for the community in kind of some of their worst times. We're able to assist. My role basically oversees and works with other emergency service agencies in town to assist the community in preparedness and then response and recovery following disaster events. I really enjoy working and living in Gladstone. We have great facilities here. People are really friendly. Council's a really good organisation to work for. Everyone's really committed to the community. I mean, we're all residents. We want to see what's best for the community happening. I do quite a few sports in town, so use a lot of our sporting facilities, as well as involved in the community theatre space. So getting to use the GECC, which we're really lucky to have. I do the community musicals, so we've done, I've been involved in Anything Goes, Legally Blonde, Carrie, and then also do foster caring through GPAWS, which is one of the animal rescue groups. Emma Catlin, Disaster Response Specialist for Gladstone Regional Council.
Sign up to Council's disaster and weather event warning system. Receive alerts about emergency news, severe weather events and other public safety alerts via SMS or email. Registering to the disaster messaging system is free. To register, visit Gladstone Regional Council's Region Watch website and click on the Register for Warnings button. Get ready, Gladstone. Take the steps to protect what's most important to you. Let's be better prepared and protected for emergencies and disasters.
Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify.
I really like the variety because there's a lot of different parts of our region, and particularly in disaster space, I like that we're there for the community in kind of some of their worst times. We're able to assist. My role basically oversees and works with other emergency service agencies in town to assist the community in preparedness and then response and recovery following disaster events. I really enjoy working and living in Gladstone. We have great facilities here. People are really friendly. Council's a really good organisation to work for. Everyone's really committed to the community. I mean, we're all residents. We want to see what's best for the community happening. I do quite a few sports in town, so use a lot of our sporting facilities, as well as involved in the community theatre space. So getting to use the GECC, which we're really lucky to have. I do the community musicals, so we've done, I've been involved in Anything Goes, Legally Blonde, Carrie, and then also do foster caring through GPAWS, which is one of the animal rescue groups. Emma Catlin, Disaster Response Specialist for Gladstone Regional Council.
Well, good morning. The time being 9 a.m, I declare open the general meeting for the Gladstone Regional Council for Tuesday the 3rd of December 2024. I call for apologies. No apologies, all are present. Thank you, councillors. The next item on the agenda is the messages of condolence. Do I have any messages of condolence? Thank you, Councillor Wagner.
Yes, good morning. The sad passing of Duncan McCallum at Uralla Bowls Club on Saturday, very sudden. He's survived by his wife Pam, 3 daughters and 3 stepsons. Duncan was well known around Gladstone for playing golf, and in the last 5 or so years he's been at the Bowls Club and been vice president for several years as well. A very likeable man, very welcoming, always encouraging people to the club, and he was also one of the sponsorship coordinators. A very sad loss to our community, and I extend my condolences to Pam and the family. He was 73 years of age and they had been married for 47 years.
Thank you, Councillor Wagner. Any further messages of condolence? No further messages of condolence. We'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is the prior notifications of conflicts of interest. Councillor Goodluck.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. At the Councillor Information Session on the 10th of December, I declared a declarable conflict of interest in relation to agenda item 1.2, which was a presentation for information only by the Gladstone Area Water Board, as I am a director of the government entity, the Gladstone Area Water Board. At the meeting, I left the room. The Local Government Act requires me to declare that conflict of interest here at today's meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Goodluck. Any further conflicts of interest, councillors? No further conflicts of interest. We'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is the Mayor's statement on current issues. So I just would like to start with the National Local Roads and Transport and Infrastructure Congress held in Western Australia just recently, and thank you Councillor McClintock and Councillor Wagner for attending that conference as well. Obviously roads are very important, and it was raised with me again this morning in the chamber how important roads are in our community, and of course in terms of local government, one of the biggest assets that we manage. So attending the National Local Roads and Transport Congress is very important to make sure we hear firsthand, not just from councillors but also officers right around the country, to see what improvements they are making, what efficiencies can be gained, and how we can make our roads safer in Queensland and of course in Australia. The next item on the agenda is the Mayor's Carols, and I want to thank all the volunteers and organisers of the Mayor's Carols and everyone who attended. Somewhere between 5,000 and 7,000 people attended the carols, so the GPC Marina Parklands are a fantastic venue, but we may be getting to the point where we're outgrowing that. I remember as a child we had the carols in the Botanic Gardens. I think we even had carols at Barney Point, and we've had the carols for a very long time at the GPC Marina Parklands, and the stage is fantastic. Our amazing team at the Gladstone Entertainment Convention Centre do a fantastic job putting that on. Of course, in terms of sound and audio and lighting, but the volunteers are the ones who organise the event overall, and I'd like to thank everyone involved in that as well. Thank you also to all of the carols, the carolers who turned up in the schools who attended as well. And we had lots of carols right across the region, not just in Gladstone, of course, but right across the Gladstone region. I thank all the volunteers who organised those as well. On the 7th of December, we hosted the Boyne-Tenem Community Forum, which was a perfect opportunity for us to explain in detail the relocation of the Boyne-Tenem Aquatic Recreation Centre to the new facility in Arthur Street in Boyne Island. A fantastic new facility there, and I'm looking forward to seeing that project continuing. We had the Ulysses Toy Run held on the Saturday at the same time, and thank you, Councillor Wagner, for attending that. I know you wanted to attend the community forum as well, but I've been a regular attendee at the Ulysses Toy Run, and I appreciate you representing me at that very special event. The Martin Hanson Memorial Art Awards and Artist Talk. Thank you, Councillor Holzheimer, for attending that one for us as well. And of course, a number of us attended the Zonta Orange Breakfast, saying no to violence against women and no to family violence in our Gladstone region. On the 10th of December, the official opening of the new nurse-led walk-in clinic. Thank you, Councillor Muscat, for attending that as well. That is fantastic facility for our Gladstone region, obviously opening there in the valley. It's a free facility and it's nurse-led, and I think you'll find we'll get amazing service from that facility there in the Gladstone Valley. On the 12th of December, the Evolve Cape-class patrol vessel was commissioned in Darwin, and it was named the HMAS Cape Capricorn, named after, of course, Cape Capricorn on Curtis Island. And this is as a result of us writing to the Chief of Navy a number of years ago and requesting that HMAS Gladstone 3 be considered, but at the same time that they consider naming one of these new patrol vessels after something in our region, appropriate to our region, as we have, obviously, HMAS Gladstone dry docked, if that's what it's called, but on display thanks to the Gladstone Maritime Museum at East Shores. And I think it's an appropriate name for the Gladstone region to be honoured with HMAS Cape Capricorn. The CQU graduation ceremony, thank you Councillor McClintock for attending, and of course we had the Calliope Community Forum as well. Upcoming in Gladstone region, before I get onto the agenda, of course we have the Trainees and Apprentices Queensland Awards Night, that's on Thursday. And this weekend, there are several communities across the region are hosting markets, including Agnes Water 1770, Captain Creek and Boyne Valley. So head to the council website for more information on those. And the New Year's Eve party will be held at the GPC Marina Parklands again. That's from 5 o'clock to 12 p.m, of course, on the 31st of December. Now, before I move into the agenda, there's one more thing I would like to do, and that is, of course, acknowledge 20 years of service for Councillor Glenn Churchill, who was acknowledged at the Local Government Association of Queensland Annual Conference. And congratulations, Glenn.
Thanks very much for that, Mayor Matt. Can I just simply say I'm proud and I'm honoured to work in the community, with the community and for the community. And if there's a message, never forget anyone at any time, especially to the new elected councillors who are going on the journey. You're going to get one of these at some stage, 20 years, but just remember, never forget those who put you here. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll get a photo later. Thank you, Councillor Churchill, and welcome to Club 20. I'd like to move to the next item on the agenda, which is the confirmation of the minutes, G2.1, for the 3rd, it says the 3rd of December,
Happy
but that
to
is
move,
not
Mayor
right.
Matt.
Is it? 3rd of... Yeah, I said
Yeah,
it.
3rd of December.
3rd of December.
It's nearly Christmas.
Thank you. It is.
Happy to move.
Thank you, Councillor Churchill. Seconding, Councillor Davis. All in favour? Motion's carried. And I think when I then opened the meeting, I might have said the 3rd instead of the 17th. I'll go back to that. I might be just looking at the minutes. Okay, councillors, what I would like to do now, with your permission, we have a long agenda item, and obviously I raised item G.4, and I'd like that to be discussed first. But I noticed there's a lot of people in the gallery this morning, and there are a number of people listening online, and also we have it broadcasting at the front of the council chambers and downstairs. So with your permission, I'd like to move the notice of motion, G7.1, to the beginning of the agenda. I'll move that way. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Patrick. All in favour? The motion is carried. We'll now deal with item G7.1. Thank you, and I'll hand over to Councillor Goodluck.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And I'd like to start by acknowledging all the people in the gallery that have come here today, taking the time out of your day to come here. I understand that many of you may not agree with my position. I'll do my best to explain myself to you. And whilst I'm sure that you still won't agree with my position, I hope at least you might understand my position. But I will kick it off. Thank you, Mr Mayor. The Gladstone region is experiencing high rates of dental decay that particularly impacts the most vulnerable and those that may not be able to afford expensive dental care. Fluoridated water helps reduce tooth decay in children and adolescents by 26 to 44% and in adults by up to 27%. The question is an individual's rights to choice more important than the overall benefit to society? And that is a question that every second person will have a different point of view on. The very same question I grappled with years ago and still today. Once I thought yes, and now after lots of discussion with many people over many years across the region who were disappointed with the council's decision back then, after lots of reflection and looking at the evidence, I have changed my position. I think I got it wrong years ago. I did what I thought was right then, and I'll do what I think is right now. That is all I can do. Years ago, I thought differently to what I think today. I respect all those who think differently to me, and in particular those who have made the effort to attend this meeting here today. Thank you to many who have engaged with me respectfully over the past week, and to those who have chosen to engage with total disrespect, may you never be subjected to the same treatment. As evidenced by information sent to us by a local dentist servicing our community for many years, This dentist sees 2 to 3 children every week under 4 years of age with a dental abscess requiring a general anaesthetic. As we all know, private dentists in Gladstone can no longer access private theatre time as there's no private hospital in Gladstone. The public waiting list in Gladstone for GA for children is over 12 months. Often the only option for these families is to go private in Rockhampton or Brisbane and pay $3,000 to $4,000 to get one baby tooth extracted or taken out. Many children in Gladstone miss out on school daily due to dental disease, which is totally preventable. These 2 pieces of evidence alone should be enough to vote for fluoridated water to bring our region in line with the majority of the country. Around 90% of Australian citizens have fluoridated water. Every other state and territory in Australia fluoridates their water. It was the decision of cowards in the Queensland state government many years ago that buck passed this public health issue to local governments because they did not want to deal with it. We can sit here today and say that it shouldn't be a local government issue, and on that, I agree. However, due to forces out of our control, it has been determined that it is within the authority of local government to make this decision today. Some may argue that we are not health experts, and on that I would agree as well. But then surely we should look to the health experts as to what the right decision is. The unequivocal scientific evidence that this is a public health measure that benefits the people we serve, that grants better oral health outcomes to adults, children, and in particular the most vulnerable in our society. Surely we should look to the other 90% of the nation who have all got access to fluoridated water and the coinciding improvement in oral health outcomes for the people that live there. We have an opportunity here today to make a decision that is right for our people, to listen to the same doctors we go to for help when we are sick or injured, to bring our region in line with the vast majority of Australians who have better dental health outcomes than our people do here. In the words of Martin Luther King Jr., the time is always right to do what is right. I hope my colleagues can consider supporting this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Goodluck. Councillor Churchill, you had something you'd like to raise.
Yeah, lovely. Thanks very much for that, Mayor Matt, and thank you, Councillor Goodluck, for speaking to your notice of motion. I speak today as an advocate to oppose the motion to impose forced fluoride into the Gladstone region's drinking water. This decision carries significant financial and ethical implications, and I believe it is neither right nor fair for our community. When I was first elected into local government, 1997, that's 27 years ago, there's some big ticket issues to deal with for local government. There's the big A, the forced amalgamations. Since then, we have been trying to amalgamate our people. This issue, unfortunately, will further divide them today. Next, the C word, cost shifting, specifically cost shifting. And when we consider the implications of cost shifting from the other 2 tiers of government, today this agenda item is a blatant cost shifting to our ratepayers. It's they who have to pay from their hip pockets. And finally, the F-bombs, not just financial sustainability of local governments. This is about forced fluoride. This will be the 5th time I've had to debate the F-bomb, and it may not be the last, but I wish it was. I've been totally opposed to forced fluoridation into the community drinking water against the will of the people since the beginning. My position has never waned, and it comes down to 2 simple factors. Firstly, the financial burden. There is a clear example of cost shifting from higher levels of government onto local councils, and ultimately our ratepayers are the ones who pay. Fluoridation comes with significant installation, infrastructure, operation and maintenance costs, costs that will come out of the pockets of families already managing rising expenses and the cost of living. Costs that are completely unknown by everyone around this table today. I have no costings before me. Unless you have, please, I'd love to be able to have them shared with the people. To make matters worse, these costs would primarily benefit only those connected to the reticulated water system. We are meant to be taking a whole-of-region approach and not leaving it to the many ratepayers who may have to pay for something that they won't receive. And I'll say this, not dissimilar to the recent forced $5 green waste levy. I strongly opposed it, I voted against it, and I'm still opposed. It's unnecessary. But maybe it was with good intentions, but it had the wrong outcome. No wonder our ratepayers get upset when they get hit in the hip pocket. Secondly, the issue of consent. Forced fluoridation is, at its core, forced medication. In a democratic society, the people, our ratepayers and residents deserve the right to choose what they consume. It's their bodies, it's my body, and nobody will tell us what we should put into our bodies. Fluoride is already readily available in toothpaste, mouthwash, and public dental programs. We should not impose a blanket solution without clear, demonstrated community support, and to date, we have no evidence of such support. In fact, more than opposition. The current Queensland Local Government Code of Ethical Principles states that on a matter of significance, of importance to the people, decisions of council should demonstrate community inclusivity and include them and involve them in the decision-making process. I want to know, when was the community meaningfully consulted on this issue? Where are the... As I said earlier, and respect in a debate, that's what it's all about, but in public today. It's wonderful to see the children here as well, our future generation. But I ask, where are the petitions, the demonstrations, the letters, or the calls demanding the need for forced fluoridation? During the recent council elections, during the recent successful council elections, I had no emails, I had no text, I had no Facebook messages, I had no phone calls, I had no personal approach, and people approach me all the time. I had no one approach me demanding me to force fluoride back into the water, and even further then to ask the ratepayer to pay for it, that they must pay for it. No one raised it with me, and I suspect many of you haven't either, but you have your opinion. It's also worth noting that more than 2/3 of Queensland councils, 51 out of the 77, including Cairns, Mackay, Banana, Livingston, Rockhampton, have rejected fluoridation. They must know something. They've recognised the financial burden and the divisiveness that this causes to our community. It's unnecessary. And finally, and thank you, Mr Mayor, for allowing me time, let's address the inefficiency of this proposal. And I haven't seen a report or some supporting information. The vast majority of fluoridated water doesn't end up in the mouths of where it's meant to be. It goes down the drain, down the sink, onto the gardens, onto your lawns, maybe wash the boat, wash the car, the dishwashers and into the washing machine. So it's not getting where it should be going, if that be the case, if you were to support it. This isn't the best way to improve oral health. And look, I've read lots of information over this past number of days since this was brought on just prior to Christmas. If this is truly a national priority, and I respect where you're coming from, Councillor Goodluck, you think that this is a national travesty, then it should be funded and implemented at the federal level and not dumped on local councils with no support. And I question, is it safe? Is it effective? My fellow councillors, this is not about being for or against fluoride. It's about doing what is right and what is best for our community. I'll sum up, Mr Mayor. Our ratepayers deserve to have a say in our decisions that affect their wallets, their bodies and their personal health. Until we have that explicit support from the people in its entirety, this motion should not proceed. Let's respect the will of the people, respect their right to choose, and let common sense prevail. And I just remind all of my colleagues, we are here, after all, the Gladstone region. We're proudly the region of choice. So give our ratepayers and residents the choice that they deserve. And I thank you. God bless. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you,
colleagues.
Thank you, Councillor Goodluck. I have a number of councillors wanting to speak.
Councillor Churchill.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Councillor Churchill. Yes. Councillor McClintock, Councillor Muscat, Councillor Patrick, Councillor Goodluck. That's where I was going. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, thank you, Councillor Goodluck. I appreciate the opportunity to have this discussion with the public. I think you touched on a few things, obviously, during that moment just before, and I thank you, Councillor Churchill. A lot of the things that you've mentioned are things that I too agree with. First and foremost, public health is not a local government responsibility, and it should not be a responsibility of the local government. And I know you touched on that, but it needs to be clear that the state government has unfairly shifted this onto councils, and our advocacy should be that we are neither equipped or qualified to debate complex health matters. And that's what this is. This isn't a debate about whether or not fluoride is practical for us. What the only things in favour of whether fluoride should go into our water is a debate around health-related issues. We are not qualified to debate health-related issues in this room. I mean, I'm not, and I don't know anyone else that has a medical profession in here. We don't have the necessary health system frameworks to apply this to a broader range of complex issues or health concerns that this may bring on. We only have specific data from dentists that we are reading through that says that this is good for teeth. And personally, I'm not sure, but I don't necessarily disagree that it's better for teeth. I just don't know that that's the whole story. Our focus should be on areas that we are responsible for: financial management, community equity and practical implementation. And these are debates that we are equipped to have, and on these fronts, fluoridating the water doesn't make sense. Significant costs. Installing and maintaining fluoridation and infrastructure does come with a cost. And again, further to Councillor Churchill's point, we don't have an idea of what that is. We don't have some details on what this is going to cost our ratepayers. All we know is that it is going to cost them. Ongoing expenses for chemicals, equipment, maintenance, and these costs fall on the council and ultimately the ratepayers. Take that into consideration as you're making a decision this morning, that we are in a financial situation in our society at present where we are trying to remove the pressures of financial implications on our ratepayers, and we are looking for ways to make this more affordable and more effective place to live, and one of the greatest regions where you can have an opportunity to thrive. Adding things in that cost more is not a way to do that, especially things that we should never be responsible for. I do hear you that we have been given that responsibility by the state, but I don't think that our agreement to that or our implementation of that does anything to further the point that we should not be the people who are responsible for that. Further to Councillor Churchill's point, most fluoridated water is not actually drunk. My biggest issue with this as an action is not so much whether fluoride is or isn't good for your teeth. That's a debate for health professionals. My concern is that this is not the most effective way for us to improve oral health, which is, I hear, the intention of this motion and the intention of this action. Most fluoridated water does go down the drain. It does go into cooking, cleaning, irrigation, washing stuff. It's very few people that I speak with who don't drink bottled water or have water brought in outside because they don't really like drinking tap water anyway. Our limited resources can be better spent on programs that benefit the community. If we really want to get into it, on dental education, subsidies on dental care, fluoride treatments. But again, we're coming back to doing things that the state is responsible for and we should not be paying for. By pushing this onto councils, I'll be quick on this last little points here. The state government is shirking its responsibility and shifting an unfunded mandate onto us. It creates a dangerous precedent. If we accept responsibility for public health here, what's next? Well, we have to fund other health programs and address gaps left by the state. We must push back and demand that the state take ownership of its responsibilities. Public health initiatives belong at a state level where resources, expertise and infrastructure are already in place to manage them properly. Fluoridation is a divisive issue. Some residents support it, I do hear that, but others strongly oppose it, and for personal or ethical reasons. Instead of imposing a one-size-fits-all, we can empower individuals to make their own choices by advocating for better access to dental health products and services. There are other ways to get fluoride into your teeth. There are other ways for you to use this product that don't involve putting it into our water supply where it's ineffective and not its best and efficient use. In conclusion, this debate's not about fluoride, I don't think. It's about governance, responsibility and how we use our limited resources. We have to recognise our limitations as a council. We are not health experts. It's neither appropriate nor responsible for us to make decisions in an area where we lack expertise. Fluoridation is a public health issue that belongs with the state government, not local councils. Our focus should remain on areas we're equipped to handle: finances, equity, practical community outcomes, and on all these fronts, fluoridation falls short. Instead, we should advocate for better state-led solutions that address oral health without burdening our councils or our ratepayers. I urge for you to vote against this motion and support a fairer path forward for the rest of Gladstone. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McClintock. Councillor Muscat.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's not a secret that I love history and human sciences. The developments in health and technology have brought us a lot. Today, as a woman, I can live in average to about 85 years old. I will rarely die during childbirth, and my chances of surviving many cancers have radically increased, all because of science, medicine, and technology. And I acknowledge that people have different opinions about adding fluoride to our drinking water for public health outcomes. I have read every email, and I thank those who were respectful. As for the others, I can assure you that I will not take public health advice from people who seek to intimidate me with litigation, emotional blackmail, or violence. To insinuate that I want to harm people is outrageous and infuriating. Today, I sit here as a councillor elected by the residents of this region. Local governments have responsibility for a range of local public health and environmental issues, including community services and waste disposal. Also, and not to my pleasure, the state government decided to place water fluoridation decisions on us. Whether we like it or not, we are responsible for making this decision. We build bridges and lots of other things, and I don't have a degree in bridge building either. So we live in a society, and evidence-based public health has provided us with wonderful advances in health, quality of life, and life longevity. Today, I will be doing the same as I would have done if faced with any other medical question. I will take the advice of the Australian health and medical community, because Australia has one of the most efficient and effective healthcare systems in the world, and I trust them. The advice to me is clear. Water fluoridation, following the Australian government guidelines, does provide the best health outcomes for the community. So today, I'm representing the members of the Gladstone region that agree with bringing Gladstone water to the same standards as the water provided to the other 90% of the Australian population. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Muscat. Thank you, Councillor Muscat. I'll move to Councillor Patrick. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning.
Isn't that gorgeous?
It is. It's lovely. Today I have been, and I sit in this chamber as an elected representative of the community. And today it is important that I do express my intention not to support Councillor Goodluck's motion to put fluoride back into the water for the Gladstone region. This was a very difficult decision for me, but I had many things to consider. For me, it is important to be informed, but be consistent with how I go about making decisions. There will be constituents who will agree and constituents that will disagree with my decision, and I respect that. But I think it is important to put some context behind how I have come to this decision. In 2016, Gladstone Regional Council made the decision to cease fluoridation. Today, the current motion seeks to consider the re-implementation of fluoride into our community's water supply. As a dental professional for over 20 years of experience, I have seen firsthand the results of health-directed, mandated, fluoridated water results. I have seen them both positive and their impacts, and the negatives of the impacts of that. I will note that I am not an expert in the field. I will also share with you that as a child, I have also suffered a fluoride overdose and have had to undergo gastric aspiration in the emergency department. These are my lived experiences. However, today, it is not about me. I sit in these council chambers as an elected representative of this community as a councillor, and it is important to listen to the community that I am consistent with my approach to the important health decision that has been thrust upon us from the state government. As a councillor, I must weigh up many considerations, such as a person's freedom of choice, the financial implications on community, and the broader role and responsibilities of local government. For context, at the federal level, we have the Department of Aged Care and Health. At the state government level, we have Queensland Health, and under the Department of Queensland Health, we have a Chief Medical Health Officer and a Chief Dental Health Officer for oral health. Gladstone Regional Council has no department or directorate for health. The current legislative responsibility to local government does not say we must mandate. It says we must decide with consultation with community, which in this proposed motion I do not believe we have undertaken or done. The history of fluoridation in Queensland saw Anna Bligh in 2008 mandate that all councils fluoridate their water. In 2012, the Campbell-Newman government removed that mandate, making it that a council could decide. 3 successive ALP governments, 2015, 18 and 21, did not see the need for the state government, who are charged with the responsibility to deliver on public health and lead in that regard, to reintroduce a mandate onto local governments to fluoridate their water supplies. The new Premier of an LNP government, David Christoffoli, has said he will leave fluoridation to local government. If the state government, through Queensland Health, who are responsible for administering and leading public health, take the view of that it is not important enough to mandate fluoridation into the water supply in our local communities, and who are experts in this field, who am I as a councillor without that expertise to override and implement as such? Additionally, I have also considered a person's freedom of choice. As any health professional would understand, a patient always has the right to refuse treatment and medication regardless of its potential health associations. If that is the law that underpins their profession, then what justifiable reason do I or we as councillors have to take the right of freedom of choice away from our residents and our community? Water should only be treated to the point that it is safe to consume. There is also the matter of how much will it cost to our community to reinstate this process. What are the ongoing costs? Furthermore, fluoridation has not been budgeted in our region's budget for the 2024-25 budget, and I do not believe it is prudent to commit an unbudgeted expenditure or make decisions without proper expertise in public health, costings and community consultation. Then there is the matter of the cost shifting from the state government onto local government. This just has to stop. To be honest, in my opinion, fluoridation in water had not been an issue from the feedback from community. Not one person had brought this up during my 12-month local government election campaign or since I have been elected. It is only since Councillor Goodluck had made the motion that this has been revealed to me how much of an issue it is for our community. In the last week, I have received many phone calls and a huge quantity of emails from concerned residents and doctors and health professionals about this motion of reinstating fluoride into the water. To date, I have only received one email from a local dentist and two locals who are in support of this motion. I personally have written to the ADAQ to seek their position statement, which I received and shared with all councillors. I have read numerous links and literature to educate myself on this matter. As a councillor in this council who has taken a precautionary approach to such an important health matter, I do not support the motion to reinstate fluoride back into the Gladstone Regional Council's water, and I will allow our residents the freedom of choice to choose their preferred choice of oral health treatment.
Thank you, Councillor Patrick. I've got Councillor Goodluck and then Councillor Holzheimer. Thank you, Councillor Holzheimer first, thank you. And then Councillor Wagner.
I don't have all of the notes to read from like everybody else. I feel to support this motion that the only way moving forward is actually to look at some changes to the motion as well. I'm thinking my language is gone from me under the an amendment to the motion. And the amendment to the motion really captures a lot of everybody's sentiments here today, as well as the voice of the community that we've heard, and then also the voice that we've not heard because of the short time frame between a notice of motion being put forward to us, which is what legislation says we have to do, is only that, I think, 5 days it is. So I would like to put it forward that the Gladstone Regional Council conducts further conversations.
Councillor Holzheimer, you can foreshadow that motion. At the moment, we'll have a motion on the books, but I can foreshadow it. Otherwise, I have to get a seconder for the current motion.
Okay.
So,
I'm happy to second the
Point of
current
order,
motion.
Mr Mayor.
thank you. Well, hang on. I have a seconder now for the current motion. Thank you, Councillor Davis.
That was my point of order.
Yeah.
Looking
Let
for
me
this-
get there.
No, that's all right. Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Now, hang on a second. A point of order is, as you would be well aware, Mr Mayor, point of order is accepted. And I was not interrupting. I was asking for a point of order to determine to make sure we had a seconder for the motion.
Which is exactly what I was doing.
Oh, and I am doing my job,
Yes, thank
Councillor
you.
Muscat. Thank you.
Thank you, you too. Thank you, Councillor. Yeah. Thank you, councillors. We'll go back. I now have a mover and a seconder for the current motion, which is on the books. Thank you, Councillor Holzheimer. Your amendment, please.
That the Gladstone Regional Council conduct further conversations with the community, that we have a full breakdown of the expected costs and impact on the ratepayers before we have that conversation, and we also have discussions with health experts present on this topic before we make a decision on how to move forward with this and the ratepayers actually choosing.
Thank you.
Sorry.
That can't be an amendment, Councillor Holzheimer. An amendment should just reaffirm or clarify the existing. That is actually conflicting with that, so it would have to be an alternate.
Thank you. I know, and I was waiting for her to finish speaking.
Sorry.
Which if everyone would let my councillors do, that would be great. Thank you. Have you finished?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. That can't be accepted as an amendment. It is far different to the original motion. And now, Tanya, if you would like to jump in and explain.
Yeah, simply because it is different, so you'll have to wait till this motion has been put.
And then you can foreshadow that as an alternate motion.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Thank you. But I just wanted everyone to hear it first.
Yes, beautiful.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Hold that thought. Councillor Wagner. Yep, and...
Yeah, thank you. Good morning. Look, I have to say a lot of the information that I would have said has been said, and I thank Councillors McClintock, Churchill and Patrick for raising those really good points. I also want to acknowledge Councillor Goodluck for raising this because it's good democracy. Thank you, Councillor Goodluck, for raising this as it reflects good democracy.
However, it would have been great to have more than the week notice, especially for us that haven't debated it before. And I do appreciate that you did your research and you are concerned. So I do acknowledge that you've come from the right place here. A couple of points that I wanted to raise, though. One, I'd like to foreshadow an alternate motion to not change the status quo and to retain not having fluoride in our water system. So with that said, this is a really subjective matter. It has been around for a long time in town. You are going to have a debate where you have people that are very strongly opposed to it and possibly for good reason. And you're also going to have probably less people that are actually for it because a lot of people are the health professionals, which are probably less in number. I do believe you have a lot who will sit on the fence. So if we did go out to public consultation, we've seen it in other locations as well, there are people who will just tick a box and it will influence it either way, which is a bit of a risk as well. And I estimate from looking at other councils, there is a high percentage of people who will sit on the fence that don't really want to make the vote, so they'll either not vote or they'll just tick a box. So I just want to put that out there too. I'd also like to add the following to the debate as well. So fluoridosis does occur, and if it was your child or loved one who was impacted by this, how do you think you would feel? How do you think you would feel if you're the one determining that they are ingesting fluoride and affecting someone else's life? One life affected to me is too many. The moment the state government abdicated its responsibility is the moment it sent a message to the state, to everyone, that it no longer felt it was detrimental to the tooth health of all constituents. Individuals should have a choice. There are other options. I agree with Councillor McClintock about education and advocacy. One, education to start very early in childhood about the importance of caring for the teeth and seeing a dental specialist or dental technician. And at the schools, they still have the dental health van, so there is access for those who have lower income or, needs. Well, all students can go to the dental van. Also in town, there are people who are eligible to go and have free dental health care. Yes, there is a waiting list. However, when I go to the dentist, I'm on a bit of a waiting list myself. I've recently had to travel to the Sunshine Coast to have some specialist dental, and I do have health insurance, thank God. It still cost me a lot. It's going to cost me $6,000, so it is a lot of money. Saying that, I think it is pertinent that council does advocate that we get some services back here locally, because we shouldn't have to travel 5 hours to go and have specialist attention, or if we want an extraction now that has to, but when you're sedated, you have to go to Rockhampton. That's ridiculous. Published information suggests the only real benefit is reducing dental decay, and the extent of that reduction is quite subjective as well. This does come as a financial cost, and are we going to dictate as councillors to people they have fluoride and then charge them for the courtesy in their rates? Gorb decommissioned its plant when we went away from fluoride. That came at a cost to ratepayers. Recommissioning will also come at a cost to ratepayers. I work in schools and I have not seen a correlation between the absences related to dental decay or related issues as well. And the fact is 57 councils currently don't have fluoride. However, they are our rural and remote, most of them. There are some that don't need it because they already have enough fluoride in their water. That equates to only 27% of the population. The remaining lot are in the southeast corner. 73% still do have fluoridation. So when you go to Brisbane at the moment, you are subjected to ingesting fluoride at the moment. I think that the state's abdication of this responsibility for me is one where it has sent a message that it doesn't care. It doesn't think that this is really all that essential. It's leaving it to local governments to not only foot the bill, but to make that decision. I'm not prepared to do it, so I would like to put that motion forward.
when I came.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Wagner. I already have a foreshadowed motion from Councillor Holzheimer, but just if the current motion, which is on the books, is defeated, your motion's really necessary because you're saying not to continue, or not to fluoridate the water. Well, if the motion is lost, then that would be the status quo. So your motion's not necessary if the current motion on the books is defeated, and then we would have to deal with the foreshadowed motion as well. Councillor Davis, and then I know Councillor Goodluck's been waiting. If you're happy, I can come to you after Councillor Davis.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just want to say to all the councillors here today, I've heard all your arguments and I pretty well do agree and acknowledge all of them. And I have seconded the motion by Councillor Goodluck because I do acknowledge and thank him for bringing the motion to us today. I have spoken to doctors and dentists myself, and I have listened to some of the public as well, you know, for and against. My question, I suppose, ultimately is, what if we get it wrong? What if what decision here today is not the right decision one way or the other for the greater good of the community? So I just wanted to put that out there, and I was going to move a motion, but Councillor Holzheimer has pretty well moved the motion that I would like to have moved. So am I allowed to second that motion if it comes around?
You are able to second it, but I have to deal with one at a time.
Yeah, I know. I understand that. All right, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. Councillor Goodluck, and then I know Councillor McClintock is waiting in the wings as well.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Just on the, you know, with respect to the issues of the public consultation, there was no public consultation undertaken in 2016 when the decision was made to remove it, which has been now the status quo for the last 8 years. No one has raised an issue with me that there was an issue about the lack of consultation, and other than people that weren't happy with the decision, who've raised it with me over the many years. There is, and I understand, you know, there's councillors that have seemingly changed their mind, and they're entitled to do that, as have I. So that is the right of every person. But if you look to a example that was highlighted to me by many people with the Cairns Council decision recently, they did undertake public consultation. The biggest percentage of people that voted in that public consultation were in favour of fluoride. The council still decided to remove the fluoride. So this is a decision which is really a conscious vote for the elected representatives that sit around the table, and that's evidenced in that exact example. When, you know, if people who sit around this table won't change their position irrespective of what that consultation result is, there's probably very little point in doing the consultation, because it is really, it comes down to what you feel personally as a councillor, what is right and what is wrong. And the people will get the chance to make their decisions through election processes. But I am...
Thank you. Please, we'll let the councillor speak.
Thank you. I was going to say I'm happy for the motion to be put, Mr Mayor, and leave it at that. But if other councillors want to move an alternative motion, they're welcome to do so.
I'll have to deal with the motion as it stands. Councillor, thank you. Well, as the chair, though, I'd like to comment. So I was on the council. I think Councillor Goodluck, were here in 2016 as well? Yeah. There was a couple of us that were here at the time when the decision was made originally, and my position hasn't changed from that decision in 2016. And mostly, as you would be well aware, in 2002, the cost shifting onto local government was $47 million. In 2024, the cost shifting, which has been done professionally through Local Government Association of Queensland, is $360+ million, and that's conservative. What we should be fighting for is keeping our planning powers. There's states like Western Australia where the CEOs are now making decisions, no offence, Lisa, CEOs are making decisions on planning matters because the state are taking them away from the local councils. That has happened in other states like New South Wales. To me, the big issue of what council should be dealing with is planning for our community, and planning for our community around keeping our planning powers. Now, the good news is the new Premier former local government minister, former deputy mayor of Townsville. I know he has no intention of taking away our planning powers, so they're safe for at least another 4 years, which is fantastic news for Queenslanders. The other issue I have is, as the motion actually says, is this is a public health issue, and it's a public health issue that the Queensland government should be making a decision on local councils. So as I said, for me, the issue is around keeping the powers that the community expect us to be responsible for, and the highest priority around that would be around not just our budgeting powers, of course, but also our planning powers. And I don't want this fight to go on any longer, so I'll put the motion very shortly. While there may not have been a lot of community consultation around in 2016, there certainly was a lot of time between when it was raised and when it became a vote. And we have 5 new councillors in the boardroom, and I don't know that they've been necessarily given enough time to consider this. We have been inundated with emails, and that's fine. And I challenge anyone in this room who says they've read them all, because it is impossible to have read them all. I have tried, and I have a lot going on. And I would challenge anyone to say that they've read them all, because you couldn't have. Admittedly, a lot are very similar, very pro forma. I've read a lot previously on both sides, and I get that there's both sides of this, but at the moment, the way it stands, I can't support the motion. So I do have a motion, though, that I will put. It's moved by Councillor Goodluck and Councillor Davis. No more comments. I'm putting the motion. All in favour? Those against? The motion is defeated. Thank you. We have a foreshadowed motion from Councillor Holzheimer, seconded by Councillor Davis. Could we put that on the screen, please?
Mayor,
Yes.
before we deal with that motion, I just wanted to raise the concept of when you amend an existing resolution of council, you're required under legislation to give the necessary notice, as Councillor Goodluck has. I'm concerned that Councillor Holzheimer's motion may also be in conflict with the existing resolution, and therefore may require notice to be given under the legislation. I'm just raising that for consideration by councillors.
I can potentially still accept a motion as the chair, and I will firstly put it to the councillors before we vote on the motion, if we accept the motion. Are you happy for me to do that? I would like to I'm not necessarily going to vote with you, but I would like to at least have the debate. So I'm going to move that we accept the motion. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Davis. This is just that the motion be just debated.
To me, I'd just like to know what the motion is.
Okay.
I know I heard what Councillor Holzheimer said, and I can understand the intent, but intent being state of mind is trying to understand what your intent is with the motion. So if it was possible that we could all read what the foreshadowed motion would be, so that I can have an understanding to be able to make an informed decision in light of what our good governance officer has just advised me. Thank you.
Thank you. It's on the screen, councillors and those in the gallery, that council conducts further conversations with health experts and the community regarding the reintroduction of fluoride and obtain a full breakdown of costs involved in the reintroduction of fluoride. That is the motion. Thank you. It's a foreshadowed motion, and I'm just putting it on the table for us to debate. I'm happy to accept it as Councillor Davis has agreed to accept it as a motion. Not yet. I'm putting the motion to determine whether we accept it, because our governance officer said it might require 5 days' notice as a notice of motion. So rather than go through 5 days, we've had the debate here this morning on this. I doubt anyone is changing their mind, regardless of what another 5 days is going to bring, which drags it into the new year. You've had enough time this morning. If you want more time, you can, but I want to at least have a motion to discuss this motion that's put by a councillor. Thank you, Councillor Davis, for seconding, and I'll put that motion that we accept the discussion on the motion. All in favour? Those against? Motion's carried, and now we'll discuss the motion. Thank you, Councillor Holzheimer, if you'd like to speak to it.
The reason why I put this motion forward is because I don't believe there was enough time for conversations within both aspects of the community. We are a new group of councillors around the table, and when we were running for election, the big thing that I heard from the community over and over again was that they wanted to be included in the conversations that we were having, like Councillor Churchill said earlier as well, and that in the past, those conversations they felt hadn't actually been taken to them. And I know we've had a really big outpouring of people who have said no to the vote, and that there's lots of people that probably aren't actually paying attention because it is right before Christmas as well. So I want to give the community the opportunity to have the conversation for both sides and for us to actually understand the cost involved in this decision. Because if we're going to take on potentially a state government issue, then I want to be informed about what it might actually cost. And I would also like the ratepayers to have the opportunity to go, yes, I support it, or no. Either way, that's for the community to make the decision on. But if it is a yes, is it yes, we're happy to cover the cost, or yes, we want our local council to lobby the state government for the cost? So that is the conversation that I would like to take to the people for them to consider those 3 points.
Thank you, Councillor Holzheimer. Councillor Muscat.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm sorry this topic wasn't given more time to be discussed. I expressed that to a couple of people. I will agree with this motion. I also am very conscious that when making medical and public health decisions, we have to take those authorities, especially local from our nation's authorities' advice into consideration. I would like to, if that's okay, with Councillor Holzheimer, also add a line in relation to the continued advocacy to the state government to take leadership, advocacy, and dedicate extra funding for public oral health, which is actually what we are, I think, all here to do. I know it's there's a number of ways in which we advocate through different levels.
I'm not worried about that. I just think we're amending amendments. But keep going.
I know. Well, at the end of the day, I think what we're trying to, we might not agree on everything, but I think what we do agree on is that we want better health outcomes for everybody. So that's right. So that's what I just said. And so I think it's our responsibility to ask the state government, since they decided that now that is some of these health decisions are on us, that they take that leadership and they make sure that they provide that public oral health funding and services that our regions need. We heard how many people don't have access to some of these services, that we have to travel. We know it's documented that the oral health outcomes of regional and remote people, especially in Queensland, are lower than anywhere else. So whether we agree or disagree on the fluoride situation, I think we all agree that we want better outcomes for everyone. So whether it is by subsidising different types of medical treatments, I don't know, sorry, I don't know what's the no in there, but I just want us to be a voice for improving health oral outcomes.
Yeah, thank you.
So if...
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Muscat. I think what you're asking is maybe part of a conversation that might be happening in that conversation. I would just like to deal with one motion at a time, if I can.
That's okay, I understand. You don't have to consider it. I just wanted to actually put that out there because that is what I think we all want, better outcomes for everyone in oral public health. Mm-hmm. And the state is definitely responsible for that. And they don't just, it's not just fluoride that we actually achieve that. It is through a number of different measurements and added funding to lots of, a whole lot of sort of services that we currently are lacking.
I got Councillor Churchill lining up to speak again on this, and I did put the motion, move a motion for it to be accepted so we can have this debate. But I'm not going to support this motion either, sorry, because fundamentally opposed to us paying for it. I can't sit there with other hats on, not just as mayor, and say, stop the cost shifting to local government and then ask for a cost shift. And this is potentially asking for a cost shift. That's just my opinion. Councillor Churchill.
Thank you, Mayor Matt. In the words of Paul McCartney, can we just let it be? Let it be. We've had a very good, respectful debate, and you've put it to the vote. And the decision appropriately is it's not going to be forced back into the water system, and goes with Councillor Wagner's intent of a motion or an amendment or put on notice of whatever. Now we're dealing with an amendment of an amendment of an amendment. And I'm becoming genuinely concerned about the good governance aspect from a council perspective, is to understand right now, and as I said, this is my 5th debate, and I'm not opposed to going to the people to talk to the people, but we need to give strategic thought about how you're going to be able to do that in light of the fact of the cost shifting. No one's going to take an onus of responsibility at the state and the federal level, and in a democratic society, from my perspective, is that we've made the decision now. Just, can we let it be? And can we let it be? Thank you. And I don't know any of my colleagues who are Christmas Grinches, but we'd like to think that we could go to Christmas in a nice festive season spirit, and then give some consideration. And now I would genuinely become serious. If you want to give this some serious consideration, no one raised this during the local government elections earlier this year. No one. And you all went to all the various forums around this region. No one, but no one, put it to us, and no one, but no one around the table, put it to the people. So I'm bemused by it. The other part that I'm genuinely concerned about is that we have a very good governance process in this council which brings a motion to the table that effectively says we put it up to the LGAQ state conference and we call upon local governments across the state, if they are so fervently wanting to introduce fluoride back in, make it a state issue. Put it onto the Local Government Association of Queensland Conference and allow the people not only of this region but our adjoining regions, because I'll share a fact with you from my 5 debates so far, is that when you put fluoride into the water here, we have 1 million visitors come from all parts of the world to drink our water. Are we going to consult with them as to whether we do or we don't put fluoride into the water for those 1 million tourists that come into our region? So let's just take a step back and a breath for a second. I agree, I'm a total supporter of good health, but I am totally opposed to moving an amendment of an amendment, which I think in good governance should have been another notice of motion, and we can deal with it in the future, and then we've got time for the people to have their say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Churchill. Is there any further comments, questions or statements to make on this foreshadowed motion, which was not unconventional, but I like the debate, and I really appreciate the debate, and I really would think it's good governance, Councillor Churchill, to allow the debate. Councillor Goodluck.
Just very quickly, Mr Mayor, I appreciate no one might have raised it with Councillor Churchill or possibly others, but people have raised it with me often and for a long time. I do find it ironic, I think I can read the room, but I do find it ironic that one of the issues with not supporting the last motion was due to lack of consultation, and now we've got a motion supporting consultation, which sounds like it's not going to be upheld either. Such is the complexities in democracy, but happy to put the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments? No, I'm going to put the motions moved by Councillor Holzheimer, second, and Councillor Davis. All in favour? Those against? The motion is lost. Thank you. Councillors, the next item on the agenda is back here to Officers' Report G4.1, and it's consideration of electoral divisions. It will take a while, and I'd like to get us started on that, please. I'd like to now hand over to the General Manager of Finance, Governance and Risk, Mark Holmes. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, councillors. I'll hand over to you, Mark.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Morning, Mayor. Morning, councillors. The purpose of this report is to, I guess, consider the opportunities with respect to whether you would want to go out to the community with respect to consultation for the implementation of electoral divisions for the 2028 local government election. The matter of a change in a local government status from being divided to undivided is considered a major change and therefore essentially requires a resolution from Council to the Minister for Local Government and then a final decision made by the Change Commission. But before that process can happen, I guess there needs to be consultation and understanding as to what the level of support is within the community with respect to that. There has been previous consideration of this matter by previous councils, and that each time we have not proceeded with essentially a resolution or gone to the Change Commission. With respect to moving to an undivided council, if you were to do that, it would have, as we currently sit, we have 8 elected members. And a divided council would have to divide each of our 47,000 electors essentially into 8. The challenges across our region is obviously given the spread of the population and probably the concentration of the population in and around the Gladstone area is that you would have a large amount, 97% of the land mass essentially represented by one councillor. So that is the challenge of moving to a divided state. The way that you go about creating divisions is the amalgamations of what they call SA1s. So they are the lowest statistical breakdowns of our region, and they form what makes up them boos in then areas. So we would have to work through that, map that out, and then go out for consultation and discussion. There is various advantages and disadvantages with respect to divisional representation, and there's a table there within your agenda on page 9 that summarises those. This really is obviously a matter for the boardroom, and we'll hand it over to councillors for discussion.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark. I'm going to start on this. Normally I would start with councillors, but considering I raised it, I'm going to start on it. I will be, when the time comes, after we've all had a debate and discussion, I will be supporting option 1, which is that Council proceed with the development of a comprehensive engagement strategy to inform a submission to the Minister of Local Government to consider a major electoral change in the form of electoral divisions or /wards, whatever you'd like to call them. The reason being is for the first time since amalgamation, no one south of Boyne Island, Tenham Sands nominated for our council. Not one person. And I've had discussions with people in that community who I know would have been successful had they nominated. Others feel that no one south of Boyne Island, Tenham Sands has a chance of being elected to our council because the population is in Gladstone, Boyne, Tenham and Calliope. I also say that during the election, I watched probably more votes counted than most people, not everybody, but there was a few that watched a few more votes counted than me, other than those counting them. And the high number of informal vote was significant, particularly in Agnes Water, Baffle Creek, Rosedale communities. And I feel that is because they feel, and it is not correct, but they would feel that they don't have their voice. And they do have a voice. They have 9 voices in the council chambers, and that is a fact. But I think the conversation has to happen because we've given it, is it 16 years since amalgamation? I've been here a long time now. It was 2008, however long it is, 16, yeah. Without divisions, the conversation at least it needs to happen with the community. A lot of councils in Queensland have them, a lot of councils in Queensland don't have them. I'm not advocating for or against, I'm advocating for the conversation with the community. I have Councillor Davis, McClintock, and then Muscat and Holzheimer wanting to speak, and then I'll come over here.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just wanted to put my thoughts across on divisions. At present, there are 8 councillors plus the Mayor representing the region. We were collectively getting out and about to all parts of it as much as possible. So residents have access to all of us. Having only one councillor for some of the larger parts of the area that may be bought about by divisions would, I feel, be detrimental in our region as it is quite spread out. You may also find that whichever councillor is allocated a division, it is not well received to that area, which will cause issues for them both, the councillors and that area. Divisions, I don't think, are fully understood from the few I have spoken to that have brought it up. Once explained, they are actually not in favour of divisions. Also, the cost to explore divisions is a cost to the ratepayer, which I think could be spent elsewhere on many other issues that are priorities to the council. I personally don't think it would encourage any more candidates at the next election. Therefore, I would like to move option 2, that the council does not proceed further with the consideration of electoral divisions. Thank you.
Thank you, but I've already foreshadowed moving option 1. We'll come back to that. Very, very sleek. Councillor McClintock, thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think we just heard loud and clear the importance of consulting with community, and I hear what you're saying in this motion and the importance of consulting with our community over this issue. I do have a comment to make in a moment, but I wanted a couple of clarification questions. It says here that the Change Commission requires the community be extensively consulted and the proposal have a reasonable level of support. From a legislation point of view, who is primarily responsible for that consultation? And if we go out to consultation, are the Change Commission then required to go out to consultation again? Are we going to have this conversation several times before we even get to a point where they make a decision? And I guess I say that in terms of if we go out to consultation and then they're required to go out to consultation, that seems a little bit of a waste of money from our part when they're going to do it anyway.
The short answer is yes. You do double up, but that is the process. So to even be considered and to progress past the Minister and to be recommended to the Change Commission, you need to have demonstrated it. The Change Commission would then go through its consultation processes again, and which will undoubtedly be another conversation with the community. So the short answer is yes, it would go through both.
All right. My next question is probably a little bit of clarification again. We're saying we're having a conversation with the public according to the motion that you've put, Mr Mayor. Are we saying in that motion that if community says no, we're going to advocate to the state to not have divisions, which is already the case? The motion kind of implies that whatever we go to community and come with, we will then advocate to the state with. I just feel like they could potentially be 2 separate steps that are included in one.
Well, yes and no. You'd only write to the Minister to consider a major change if a major change was what the community asked for. It can be reworded, but that's...
Yeah, it might just need a little... It does say that we're going to advocate, or where's the wording? I've lost it here.
Well,
I keep highlighting things instead of scrolling.
We proceed with the development of a comprehensive engagement strategy to inform the submission. So what we're doing is getting a strategy to inform the submission.
Yeah.
To consider. We'd only do that if the outcome of that comprehensive engagement strategy was to change it from the status quo.
I guess and I guess I hear what you're saying, and I'm just wondering if the motion is actually saying what you're intending, because I don't want us to put in place an action that we didn't really intend to do due to wording, which was to waste money.
Righto, well...
I want it to make sure it says what you're saying.
Well, it does to me, but I can try and tweak it for you while the other councillors speak, and there's a few councillors wanting to speak. Thank you, Tanya.
Mr Mayor, I think it's accurate. You would need a further resolution from council to make a submission. So we wouldn't take that next step without a further resolution.
No, that's all right. That's a clarification.
And to be clear, to implement before the March 28 election, essentially you needed almost a decision and a submission to the Change Commission by 2 years prior, which is March 26. So the first part of that option 1 is really about coming back with what is the engagement strategy that you would like with respect to considering that change. Doesn't say how we're going to do it. We'll go through and work through what may be the best options there with respect to that. And then should the outcome of that engagement be that, we do want to consider a major change, then another resolution would be required.
Good. I just wanted to make sure we had that clarification and it wasn't something else. That's all. It wasn't necessarily against. I guess my only comment on this is that we did have feedback from community during the electoral process, which is part of this this report here, and I thank the officers and Mr Mayor for the content here to digest. I think primarily for me, though, what I heard was not about introducing divisions. It was about ensuring that all residents, particularly those in our outer regions, were better represented and heard. The perceived lack of councillor availability in this area, in these areas, is an important issue, but I don't think divisions are the solution, and we can unpack that, and I'd like to have that conversation with community. Those advocating for divisions, I would even go as far to say that they were simply suggesting the only tool that they knew available to address their concerns. But I am concerned that it could lead to unintended consequences, which is actually worse representation for those out in those regions and not actually achieving what those who are advocating for it wanted to achieve. I am a big fan of us figuring out how we can do our role better continually, obviously. But I do believe there are more effective ways, and some of those we've already begun to implement, already had conversations, as I know many councillors around this room have had since the elections with those in the outlying areas, that they do feel that we are more present, they do feel that they are more heard, and that there are things such as our community forums in place where they can have a voice to speak into some of the things that they truly care about. I think we definitely need to have a conversation with our community. I'm just not sure the conversation, do you want divisions, is the right question. I think the conversation is, do you feel represented and how can we help that? Because I don't think divisions either are going to help our lack of voting. And I'd just say personally, it's better for me if we go to divisions because I only have to campaign in my little patch of grass against one or two others potentially rather than against the whole region and across the place, but I don't believe it actually allows that role to do its job properly by doing that. So that's just an side comment, but I just wonder whether we're asking the right question and want to make sure we do ask the right question when it comes to that consultation, not necessarily against the conversation.
Thank you, Councillor McClintock. Councillor Holzheimer, Muscat, Wagner, Churchill, good luck. There's a few lining up, probably Patrick as well.
Me? Okay, beautiful. I'm going to acknowledge that during the campaigning process that I did advise that I would support the conversation around division. So I'm happy to second your motion, even though you didn't support mine earlier, but that's fine. I won't hold it against you. It's your democratic right to choose. And my concern is similar to Councillor McClintock's about the question that we're actually asking. So since being elected, I suppose we're quite naive when we're actually running for election, what we think the role is and all of those components of it versus what the reality of it is very different. And then with reading the report, I agree that the southern region that expressed the most need for connection and having somebody represent them and who, that information that you shared about the informal voting, that really spoke really loud to us. However, I'm not sure that divisions actually they address that and actually give them what they're wanting either. So I suppose it's more of a question, when we go out to consultation with the community, will we actually be provided before it goes out to the community in a councillor information session what that conversation looks like? Because I would really like to have more information before the conversation's had in regards to what questions are we asking, what type of conversation are we having with the community, because I think that we need to really get clear on what is the problem we are trying to solve here and what are the solutions the community is actually looking for. And it might not actually be divisions, but this conversation might actually get us clearer to serving the community better. Thanks.
Thank you, Mark. We can probably answer that, but I'll have a go. So proceeding with the development of a comprehensive engagement strategy means, correct me if I'm wrong, it comes back here with what the engagement strategy would look like. So this is the first step if it happens. If it's decided today, there's a step for other steps to happen in terms of going to the community to discuss whether division/wards are introduced, or not even introduced, are taken to the Minister for consideration, or the Change Commission for consideration. Very first step. If it ends here, that's the end of the conversation. And it can be the end of the conversation until someone else brings it up another time. I promised the community I would raise it because it was raised with me, and I did it in the middle of an election campaign when I didn't have to be political about it. It wasn't about being political. I was already returned as mayor. So this wasn't about winning an election. This wasn't about any of that. This was what genuine conversations I had with the community about. They wanted to have it revisited. But this will allow for those to answer those questions if it goes ahead. But you've seconded it, so I'm hoping you support it. Councillor Muscat.
Thank you. Thanks, Mark, for the report and to those that put it together. I was also interested in the historical context and the rest of the information. Sorry, I didn't have my microphone on. So yeah, the historical information was also very good. There was a few things I didn't know about. So obviously, to me, the background provided confirmed that a move to consider implementing electoral divisions is not in the best interest of our community. The same as in the past, I also believe that the electoral divisions are contrary to the public interest. I do understand that the report was a commitment from the mayor during the last election, and I understand his motivations, but I do not support moving forward with an exercise that does not add any value or benefit to our communities. I speak to people and organisations throughout the region on a daily basis. There aren't many days in the year that I'm not working for the Gladstone region. I regularly visit our regional and rural centres, and I meaningfully engage with people. In addition to personal interactions, I also have a number of communication channels that residents use to reach me when they have questions, concerns, or just want to send us feedback. Those channels include Facebook, Messenger, TikTok, Telegram, WhatsApp, Instagram, LinkedIn, phone calls, text messages, and emails. Furthermore, I attend about 80% of all council organised events and activities, such as market stalls, community events, and other public events. Most recently, we had community forums around the region, from Rosedale to Mount Larkham to Agnes, Calliope, and more. I attended every single one of them. It is also confirmed that I have confirmed last week that no formal requests to divide our region have been received through customer service requests. I'm confident to say that residents do not consider this an issue of priority. In fact, 99% have never thought of this as something we need to discuss. Yes, at election times, and I have run 4 government elections in my time, there's always a couple of people raising the question on social media, and many times with little understanding of the subject, like Councillor Davis mentioned before, and when engaged, they see that it's not probably the best outcome. I will not agree to subject 60,000 people, ratepayers' funds and valuable council resources to a potentially toxic, divisive, unnecessary and expensive exercise because of a couple of people on Facebook and at an event during a candidate forum. This council is working very hard on so many positive projects and with a strong team that is more focused on what our residents need. I like to stress that too, like we have a new council with 5 new members, and I love my previous colleagues as well. But we have a lot of energy right now, and we are spending a lot of time concentrating in lots of really good things that are happening. So we are going through changing times with plenty of opportunities and also many challenges. So I ask you all, is this what we want to be focusing on? Is this what's important to our region? Will this make us better? Or will this just take us into a polarising battle of yes to divisions against no to divisions? Why would we do this to our communities? I'm confident that when our residents wake up every day, they do not think of council electoral divisions as their top 10, 20 or even 50th priority. For the vast majority of our region, council divisions are not what they want us and GRC officers to focus on. I know what people want us to focus on, I think. Those things are roads, rubbish, parks, community events, community facilities, looking after our environment, invest in our water infrastructure, secure, safe and hygienic sewage systems, sporting and recreational areas, planning, development matters, and the list goes on. Electoral divisions, community divisions, and increased political games is not what people want to spend their time discussing. I encourage everyone to be involved in all electoral processes, nominate for a council position. I acknowledge what the Mayor said before about people not nominating from some areas in our region. I don't think I think we have an issue of participation, I guess, and trust in government bodies. If you want help doing so, nominating for a position, I offer my assistance 100%, whether you agree with me or not, in different issues. I will help you learn about all the areas of the region, because we as councillors here make a decision for everybody, with divisions or no divisions. We don't make decisions just for one town or another, or a part of the region or another. We're a region, and like a family with its members, all look after a common budget and asset base. Better representation happens when there's more participation, not by dividing people, not by breaking up the family and opening our council to regional fights and politically motivated deals for electoral purposes. Divisions create divisions. I'm taking this from Councillor Churchill. And this exercise is expensive, unnecessary, and potentially very damaging to our communities. I love this region, and because of that, I do not want to proceed with any further considerations of electoral divisions for the Gladstone Regional Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Muscat. Councillor Wagner Churchill.
Yeah, thank you. Look, I'll echo the sentiments again of those that are against the divisions. It's not that I'm against divisions. I love the idea of them, and I've worked in a community where they had them and they worked well. The difference is that our demographics are such that one councillor will, in real terms, be covering an area of nominally, I mean, it would yet be decided how they're broken up, but you're either going to divide individual townships, or the logical division would be from Rosedale to Raglan, from part of Tannum Sands, not all of them, if you're looking at population base, out to the Billawilla Range. One councillor would be covering the majority, 80% of our 10,000 square kilometre region, which would be really unfair to that councillor. And when they came back to the boardroom, we'd have all the councillors in town that are covering essentially about 2 suburbs, and one would be Boyne Tannum and probably part of Calliope, in here advocating for their piece of paradise, particularly when elections coming on. It's going to be really unfair for our rural people. When I ran for election, it was because I wanted to really cover the whole region. I'm very passionate about our rural people. I'm from a rural background, and there isn't one down there that I wouldn't go to great lengths for. I'm also seeing in this particular makeup of council, remembering that if this did go ahead, it wouldn't be until the next election, so the next council anyway. If this did go ahead, if you have a councillor in your region and you're not relating to them, or you don't like them, or you're not getting what you want from them, you're going to be a bit hamstrung, okay? Because you're going to have to then, I suppose, seek out help from another one that is there to represent their own region. So while I like the idea of divisions and I love the idea of consulting, my biggest issue, again, a bit like the last debate we had, if we go out and consult, are we consulting because we already know deep down that this is the wrong thing, and that the Commission's probably going to say, the demographics of your community are such that it isn't a good thing, which means you're probably spending this consultation. I don't know what the figure would be, but I'm thinking, Mark, would you know what consultation for this level and the process would, in wages, time?
In terms of and that's what the engagement strategy will come back with. So we've allowed 100,000 in the budget to run a full election. Just to give us an idea of size and scale, that costs 380,000, and that's with Electoral Commission of Queensland. There we have sought. There is a private election companies out there, and that cost would be higher than that again. So probably closer to 500,000.
And I'm just going to put it out there, do we spend $100,000 or do we give someone a park, for instance? If you're looking like a playground, like if you're looking at it in real terms, because you're going to then get the one councillor that you think you might like, but if you're in Rosedale, there's potential that you get a councillor from Raglan. Are you going to get adequate representation? If you do, then so be it. If we're going to consult to pay lip service, I'm not into that. I think that we, what I'm seeing from our councillors, and I know myself, the demands at the moment are very high. I'm not seeing one councillor here that isn't on the road. I'm talking about nearly every day of the week. I know myself, I've been at, in the morning I'm up at Mount Larkham, and then I'm at the Boyne Valley. And recently it did come to a head when I fell asleep behind the wheel of the car coming back from the Boyne Valley at 9 o'clock at night, which was, I suppose, just reinforce that, okay, while we want to do everything we can for the community, I think we do have to work, and we are working really well with our colleagues, and there has been times, I know Natalia filled in for one when I got no sleep coming back from the Perth conference, thank you very much. So I think that, and there's been times where we've actually discussed, because 3 were going, would say, well, it's probably overkill, there's 2, and we'll go to another event. I think this council is working really well. I am keen to know though, and I don't know whether we have to spend $100,000 on consultation, especially when we run events and we have one person turn out for a community consultation, whether or not that is the way to go. So I suppose that's it. But I'm all for the community giving us feedback, sending in. They can email give us some ideas. If you think you're underrepresented, then please express it and express some opportunities or options that you think would help, because there's not one councillor here that wouldn't be willing to listen, and I assure you of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wagner. Councillor Churchill.
Thanks, Mayor Matt. Oh, well, I'll try and make it brief. There are advantages and there are disadvantages, and thank you for your report, Mark. Quite comprehensive, so that it allows everybody to have an understanding. Having been through this process with myself, with the Electoral Commission of Queensland, for those that have never been through this, you are just about, if you do, you're going to go through a very steep learning curve. A very steep learning curve on 2 aspects. One aspect is representation, local representation, and the other one appropriately is understand that divisions do not create divisional budgets. From an operational perspective, you will be elected and to represent the whole of the region. Not, and I understand, Councillor McClintock, where you're coming from, you're going to campaign in that little area. They're the ones that are going to vote for you, but the reality of it is that you need to take a whole of region approach with everything that you currently do. So you don't get ostracised, that you're only going to speak on behalf of your little patch. And I don't want to pick on you, Councillor McClintock. I still wear the battle scars of, you think that forced fluoride was an issue. I can tell you now that when you start to talk about developing a model for divisions and or wards, and they call them divisions, and rightfully divisions can create divisions, because I've seen some of that happening within our own backyard, is that during the local government election, and I heard from the outer reaches of the region, didn't hear it from anywhere within Gladstone and Boyne Tannum, but from the outer reaches, they were talking about wanting their local representative. So from my perspective, and I stood at a number of the Meet the Candidates, more so, the Boyne, the Baffle, I think Agnes Water, and I indicated that I would be supportive of asking the people if that is what they want in relation to local representation, the go-to person that they see as the one that's been elected by the locals to represent their local issues on the regional council. So as much as it might pain me a little bit, I'm actually supportive of option 1, to proceed with the development of a comprehensive engagement strategy. That doesn't necessarily mean to forge forward, because I offer some words of wisdom here at this stage, is that, and I say I'm still got the battle scars and it's on public record, is that if we as a local council that have been voted by the people to be here to make decisions for the betterment of the region and the community, if we develop a model to put to the Minister for Local Government, the model, which will go on to the Electoral Commission of Queensland as the model. If the people don't like it, you're going to hear about it in no uncertain terms. My counsel to you is at this stage is that I would like to see what this comprehensive engagement strategy is going to be. How much is it going to cost? How will we implement it? How long will it take? Because one of the greatest learnings that I learnt from my previous experiences in divisional aspects, although I note 18 of the largest 25 are now divided. 18 of the largest 25 local governments are divided. Are we in that category of being large, or are we still a medium or a middle? I'm not sure.
No, you asked the question, so both our neighbours are divided councils, Bundaberg and Rockhampton to the north, and
Banana to the west.
And Monto, not called Monto
North
anymore,
Burnett. And Banana
so
to the west. So we're surrounded by divided councils. So I'm not actually advocating for or against divisions, local representation yet, yes, but I just simply say one of my greatest learnings that I experienced in my previous processes with the Electoral Commission of Queensland, and it's on record, is that if we get it wrong, the Electoral Commission of Queensland will come out smelling like roses because they listen to the people. We have a responsibility to make sure if we do go out there, subject to the decision and good governance here, if you go out there, make sure we listen to the people as to what it is that they actually want, and then put that model to the Minister. Because if you get the model wrong, the people of our region will tell you in no uncertain terms that we got it wrong and the Electoral Commission of Queensland got it right. So I'm supportive of going to the next step of the strategy.
Thank you, Councillor Churchill. Councillor Goodluck, then Councillor Patrick.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I acknowledge some comments made about, how we've just heard about how important consultation is right before we voted against consulting. But I just wanted to say to you, Mr Mayor, thank you for bringing this. I believe that you believe this is the right thing to do. And you believe, and you've outlined some of the points why. And it's a good discussion to have, I guess, at least around the council table, if not with the broader community. But the issues that I have with this, if you look at the last local government election, there was, I actually feel like divisions are less democratic than undivided councils. The majority of councils in Queensland are undivided. If you look at the number of seats, council seats, across the state in the election earlier this year that were uncontested, there were 61 council seats. Now, mayoral races are, obviously you were uncontested, Mr Mayor, mayoral races are a little bit different. Sometimes that happens, probably still not very often. But if you look at the number of council seats that were uncontested, just every single one of them was in divisions. Now, from a personal perspective, as Councillor McClintock raised, this would benefit me as a councillor. I topped the poll in the Boyne Tannin booths in 2020. I think from memory, I topped the poll or was very close to the top in the Boyne Tannin booths in the election this year. I live in Boyne Tannin. My kids go to school in Boyne Tannin. I'm on all these different committees and volunteering roles, and it would be a tough job for someone to beat an incumbent in that situation in a divisional arrangement and a divisional electoral system. What I have not seen in the 3 elections that I've run in our undivided council electoral system, I have not seen one councillor that has been elected uncontested. Every single councillor, every single election has to put themselves out there to the people, not just in their division, but across the entire region, and put themselves on the stump and explain to people and secure enough votes to be elected. We often see incumbents returned in divisional seats across the state as well. They are quite difficult to beat an incumbent, particularly in divisional areas. And by the same token, in every election I've run in the last decade, I have seen incumbent councillors at every one of those elections who have not been re-elected. Now, there's debatable around whether you think that's a good or a bad thing, I guess, as to how you casted your vote. But one thing it's certainly good for is the health of democracy, because people don't get a free kick, which is what you see, I think, a lot more of in divisional seats. And so for that purpose, and I didn't have anyone raise with me the issue around divisions until it was raised in meet the candidate sessions, etc. But I've had a lot of conversations with people that told me that they were supportive of divisions, and when I explained to them, particularly the way the Gladstone population is, we would see likely 4 or 5 councillors elected from the city of Gladstone, probably the mayor, because would come from the city of Gladstone, and you might have 3 or 4 other councillors that separate across the area, and there would be, I think divisions create divisions, as Councillor Churchill always says, and that means that you will have voting blocks of councillors, depending on where they live, as to what projects or initiatives or expenditure they might support. And I think it would actually make it harder for our outer areas like Agnes Water, Baffle Creek, Rosedale, the Boyne Valley to get good outcomes, because they don't have the voice of 9 councillors that sit around the table. They'll only have the voice of 1. And so for that reason, I genuinely don't think this is the right option for our community. If it goes through, I'll be happy, because it means I can cut my election expenditure in next election by about 10-fold. But I genuinely don't think that this would be the right decision for me. It wouldn't be the right decision for our community, so I won't support option 1 today.
Thank you, Councillor Goodluck. Councillor Patrick.
Hi, everyone. I was, again, really torn with this decision. I have to go back to when I was asked down in Agnes Waters, what did I think about divisions? At that time, I publicly said I believed divisions divided. However, I needed to listen to community. I absolutely believe that undivided governance gives better outcomes. So, again, as you can see, this is a really difficult decision for me. But again, a wise person said to me, you must listen to the people. And that's what I'm elected to do. So I will be going towards the consultation.
Thank you, Councillor Patrick. Councillor McClintock. Second round.
Let's have another turn at this. You mentioned many of our neighbours are divided.
I didn't mention it. It was asked and I answered the question.
Yes. We don't need to get into some of the issues that many of our neighbours are facing, and around financial and all sorts of things that are a struggle for them, and I don't know that this is going to help that process for us. That aside, my concern is back to what my a little bit better explaining of what my point was earlier, is that we are, in option 1, council proceed with the development of a comprehensive engagement strategy. What we're debating here is not even really, well, it's 2 different debates in my mind. I'm trying to figure out which one we're having. Is it, do we talk to our community, or is it, do we have divisions? I am not against a development of a comprehensive engagement strategy. That I am okay with. I am a little concerned that we are foreshadowing that the outcome to that engagement strategy is that divisions will be the best outcome. I would like to go to develop a comprehensive engagement strategy. That's okay, and I'm happy to do whatever the amendment-y things are if we need to get to that point. But with an option to do divisions, that may be what we come to a conclusion, and that is a better outcome. But I would not like to foreshadow that that is the best outcome. Perhaps we have some of the things that we're already doing. Perhaps there's some things and identified needs that we don't have. Perhaps there are some other ways that other regions are doing engagement with their outer communities better than what we are, and we could come up with some of those answers in an engagement strategy from our officers. I'm happy to have that. I just don't want to foreshadow us then taking that to the Change Commission for electoral divisions, but having that as an option at the end point. That's all.
Thank you. I've got Councillor Muscat, then Councillor Churchill.
Yeah, not much to... I won't go for long, but community consultation happens all the time. So, and I will say again, I have not had one person, apart from isolated episodes, bring the question even like, oh, do we have divisions? Oh, okay, well, we don't. Okay, next. I do not understand why we going to put all our, a considerable amount of resources, money, divide ourselves here in this table, divide the community over something that they don't want to think about. So this is creating a problem where there isn't one. So I'm honestly, I mean, if from now on we start getting people asking us at community forums, at events, all this and that, like asking us to consider this, well, I don't have a problem with doing that. But I haven't had that. And I've been here since 2018, and the only time this comes up, it's at government elections, and not very often. It's a conversation we have. No one is asking us to bring this in. There's almost 66,000 people in here. What consultation, what questions are we going to ask them? Like, I don't, honestly, I understand that there was a promise made in reaction to some people asking, but there's only a small percent, only just those ones that feel not represented in some areas. That isn't the whole region. So I don't know, I reject to actually this isn't me not wanting to consult with community. This is me not wanting to waste time looking at an issue that we don't have. So I'm sorry, I can't support that motion, that option. I will support option 2, which is not to continue.
Option 2 again, as I was saying to Councillor Wagner earlier, if option 1 is defeated, option 2 is redundant.
Thank you.
Councillor Churchill, then Wagner.
Yeah, thanks very much for that, Mayor Matt. I'm prepared to move an amendment to the motion. You'll either take the amendment or foreshadow.
Why not? It's a day for it.
Yeah, why not? We'll all be looking forward to Christmas break-up, I've got no doubts about that. But if you're prepared to accept an amendment of the motion that you currently have before you, which may in actual fact either not necessarily soften, but clarify in the wording up there you currently have on the motion that council proceed with the development of a comprehensive engagement strategy to inform whether or not a submission is required to the Minister for Local Government to consider a major electoral change in the form of electoral divisions. And I'll repeat that again. What I'm actually, and hopefully Rachel's 99.9% right onto it anyway, so I can't remember what I just said, but I've got it written down here, whether or not a submission is required. Because the reality of it is going out to the people will determine appropriately whether they want it or they don't want it, whether they're opposed to it, whether they're for it, whether they're against it, what's the costs involved. But if it is a comprehensive engagement strategy, which I'm saying now, my experience becomes wisdom, is that you'll find out when you go out to the region appropriately if it's needed, if it's wanted, if it's required, and that's why I use the word required. Not by the whim of one, not by the whim of a small group, but the whole of the region, and that's the intent of it, because it has to be in the best interests of the region. So I'm foreshadowing, and I'll read it again, that Council proceed with the development of a comprehensive engagement strategy to inform whether or not a submission to the Minister for Local Government is required, because I see a danger if we put something up to the Minister for Local Government, it's already fait accompli. We're telling him what we want. We should be determining whether the people want it or not. And if they don't want it, I'm sure they're going to tell us. And if they overwhelmingly want it in the best interests of the region, I'm sure they'll tell us.
Thank you, Councillor Churchill. I'm not sure, as I said to Councillor McClintock, that the original motion doesn't do that. And well, Tanya also confirmed that. But Mark, this is the report you put together, and thank you for doing it for me. Can you answer Councillor Churchill's question, please?
To be fair, to make a submission, we'll need another resolution. This is actually just about developing an engagement strategy, and part of that engagement strategy will be looking at the advantages and disadvantages of both forms of governance. So that will be part, and then the part of that would also be trying to understand the sentiment then of the community as to whether they support or not a change.
Correct.
That would be this. You won't be making a submission unless you actually make another resolution.
Bring it on. I don't have a problem. That goes back to Councillor Goodluck's point. You want to find out from the people, go and ask them. I don't believe the amendment's required, but that's...
Well, I don't think the amendment's required either. I think the amendment is unnecessary, and I'm happy to leave it as it stands. Councillor Wagner.
Yeah, thanks for that, Mr Mayor. Yeah, I think the actual...
Hang on, Mr Mayor, are you accepting an amendment to it, or you're not accepting it? Or...
Well, you said foreshadow.
Okay, righto, thank you.
Okay.
The motion or the recommendation as it stands actually says we will proceed, and it does allude to the fact that the intention is to go and do divisions. So I do get what Councillor... Yeah, but the intent of that strategy is solely for the purpose of divisions, the way that reads. Whereas I'm hearing Councillor McClintock and others saying that it's about that. If we're going to consult in the community and spend that sort of money, then a consultation will reveal potentially some other options. It will also help, I suppose, make the community aware of just some of the challenges that we have. But I'd like to put it out there. What I'm hearing from all the councillors, other than the Mayor, respectfully, is that as elected members, some of us have been here only 6 months or so, we're already seeing that while we like the idea that we get some representation from the outlying area, this here is going to probably fragment us further. It's an issue. So with the way the motion is at the moment, if we go out there, we're basically going to all say we are supporting the idea of divisions. And I don't think that's what I'm hearing, because this affects the next lot of councillors that are elected, not us. So we're not coming in here with the idea that this is going to be a benefit for us. I think we're all coming from the same place in the heart, saying what is actually in the best interest of this community, and we are elected to make these decisions. And I'm not keen on spending $380,000 of money when our elected members here, representing our community, listening to our community, are all, well, pardon me, respectfully, saying that this isn't a good thing for our community. The way the divisions are at the moment, it isn't. Our region doesn't lend itself to be effective. And when I do look at the list of all the councils who have it at the moment, and there's plenty in the media too, if you go searching about some of the challenges that some of our similar sized councils are having, Bundaberg being one, and others, with having divisions in there in representation. And I note that the undivided councils include bigger councils like Toowoomba as well. And I would suggest, and I don't know for a fact, but because demographically, if you're looking at the area that they cover is quite, the outlying areas are quite sparse with population as well. So whether or not that has impacted on it. But if you have a look at them, a lot of them are the smaller, you know, Burke, Carpentaria councils like that. But there's also larger ones as well, like Noosa. Noosa is an undivided council as well. But I would suggest, and I don't know, but the area of Noosa probably isn't the size that we even have. So it is going to be a challenge. And I honestly, I put myself in the position, if I'm the councillor in the likely rural area or half of another community, can I adequately represent that community? And I don't know, I'm not Superwoman, but there's no way I will be able to do that knowing what the demands are now. And if I'm a councillor in the city and I've got my 2 suburbs, gee whiz, it's going to be an easy job, isn't it? Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. I see Councillor Goodluck is wanting to go next. I still don't agree that that doesn't do that, but it's semantics in wording. I'm happy to... sorry, Lisa?
If I may, I think the clarity will be really important for officers. This report was brought as a special request to consider divisions, and that's where the engagement strategy was directed at. What I'm hearing is there may be a different piece of work which may include part of this but be a much broader engagement strategy. So I think they're 2 different pieces related but different pieces of work. So I'm probably even looking to Tanya whether that's consistent with the intent of this motion and report, or whether we're going into a different topic that's not necessarily initiated by the... Does that make sense? I just don't... We're getting quite broad rather than to consult about divisions and whether this is something you want to progress or not, versus a much broader representation engagement strategy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is fine either way. I just... The clarity will be important for officers. Is it just divisions, or do you want it to be something much broader if that's what's supported?
Well, I was the one who raised it, and I'm not necessarily opposed to it being much broader, but the conversation, while many of you may not have had that with members of the community, I have, and while there may not be current CSRs in, there have been, and while some of you have only been here for 6 or 7 months or something and only maybe heard it once or twice or not at all, I've heard it many times. Many times. And previously, we've not considered it. We've considered it and not agreed to it. I think on 3 occasions, we've not agreed to it. And the reason I raise it today is because after 16 years of having no divisions, I thought it was appropriate time for the community to have a conversation around it. I was here in 2007 when we had the size, shape and sustainability conversation with the community, and we had the discussion around divisions. A big chunk of our community in the Gladstone region wanted them, a big chunk of them, but we didn't go with that. And as a city councillor, at the time I said, if the smaller communities want them, we'll support them. If the smaller communities don't want them, we won't support them. And the majority at the time didn't want divisions, so we didn't go with that. I'm not sure that that's still the sentiment of the community after 16 years, but happy to consider an amendment in a second. Councillor Goodluck.
It's okay.
All right.
Put the motion. Can I put the motion?
Well, no, or you're going to move the motion to be put, but I think there's conversation about amending it. Yeah.
If I can. Sorry, Mr. Mayor. I do think that the intent for you to bring this today was for the consideration of divisions. And I agree with what the CEO pointed out. I think if we're going to look or consider amendments that sort of relate to more broader engagement strategies, that's not an issue that we need to consider today. This issue to me is around, do we or do we not want to engage with the community on divisions?
Yeah.
And there's been lots of talk about it, but I know that the people you're talking to and the people you're trying to get a solution for, these are people that feel like perhaps they don't have access to that democratic representation. And I've spoken to those people as well. But what I say to them is, to me, healthy democratic representation is when you have 8 councillors, every single councillor turn up to the Boyne Valley Meet the Candidates. Every single councillor turns up to the Miriam Vale Golf Club or the Agnes Water Community Centre or the Boyne Tannum Community Centre. Every single councillor, no matter where you live, is there to hear your issues, to talk to you about what's important to you and to understand and advocate on your behalf in this room. If we move to divisions, you won't have 8 councillors, you'll have 1. It'll be your councillor. Now, I'm sure they'll fight like hell for you, but they'll be fighting against the other 7 people who won't turn up to you Meet the Candidates, and they won't understand because they might not necessarily have spoken to you and engaged with you about those issues. And I think that, if we talk about democratic representation, that's not a more healthy outcome for our people.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Councillor Goodluck. I'm going to put the original motion because I think you're right. The conversation that I wanted to have with the community is, do you want divisions or not? A conversation around how would you like to be represented if it's not divisions can happen at any point. Our officers can do that tomorrow. Well, with direction from the boardroom, which they have been doing. Kylie's team have been doing through the conversations platform, through our community forums, through taking our meetings to the regions, which is what we used to do before COVID, and now we've got this fantastic technology, and thank you, Kyle, live streaming our council meetings around the world. I'm sure they're not watching it outside the Gladstone region, but maybe today. So we do engage in different ways. I get that. The question I was asked to put, and have been asked many times in the past, is this one, and I think this is the vote I want to take today. And if anyone wants to foreshadow something after it, which is possibly not in line with it, we can leave or deal with it at the time. All righto. You know when you're on a hiding to nothing. I've got a seconder at least. I thought it was going to lapse for one of a second. Thanks for not leaving me like a shit.
I know how you feel, Mr Mayor.
Yeah.
I think it's great that we're doing this anyway. It is there, and I guess it's a good thing, a good conversation we're having, especially with the new council.
Yeah. You've had 3 goes. Would you like another go? I'm happy to not... Come on then.
Go on then. We are engaging with community, and I think that's the point that we're trying to raise here, is we are engaging with community. We do have procedures in place already. We do have a whole team dedicated, Kylie and team, to how do we engage better with community, and community forums are a part of that solution. So that's happening. The conversation we need to have right here is, are we going to go out for divisions? And I think, you know, if we make that or mould that into, do we care about listening to community? That's a totally wrong question, because we already are doing that piece. We already are engaging with community. This is literally about divisions, and do we have the invest our ratepayers' money into a potential rabbit hole that is going to cost us who knows how much.
Thank you, councillors. I think we've discussed this long and hard and enough. Thank you. And thank you, Councillor Holzheimer, for seconding the motion, which is up there on the screen. The council proceed with the development of a comprehensive engagement strategy to inform a submission to the Minister for Local Government to consider a major electoral change and in the form of electoral divisions. I put the motion at second, Councillor Holzheimer. All in favour? Those against? The motion is lost, and we'll now break for morning tea.
Sorry, Mayor, as this one's an officer report, we will need a resolution. So the previous...
For morning tea, Kyle?
Yeah,
I'm happy to move option, the other one. Option 2. Oh, unless you...
Yeah, no, you go for it. I'm not moving option 2, not a chance. Option 2, if council... Oh, you did, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Davis. You did foreshadow that. If council no longer wish to proceed with the concept, it may resolve that council not proceed with further consideration of electoral divisions. Move, Councillor Davis. Seconded, Councillor Muscat. We don't need any more debate on this.
Can we do the division? Yes,
where
it's recorded.
Yeah, we're going to.
Please, thank you.
It's coming. All in favour? That motion? No, this one.
So not to proceed?
Not to... Sorry, can we vote on this again, please? That it was moved by Councillor Davis, seconded Councillor Muscat, that council no longer not proceed further with the consideration of division. Sorry, I don't have my glasses and I'm trying to read that up on the screen. It's a long way away. And it was moved and seconded. All in favour? Those against? 1, 2, 4. Yeah, call for a division. Those in favour of the motion? Councillor, the records show that Councillor Goodluck, Councillor Davis, Councillor McClintock, Councillor Muscat and Councillor Wagner voted in favour of the motion. Those against? That Councillor Holzheimer, Burnett, Churchill and Patrick voted against the motion. Thank you. Tanya, you happy with that? Thank you. We'll break for morning tea. Thank
I really like the variety because there's a lot of different parts of our region, and particularly in disaster space, I like that we're there for the community in kind of some of their worst times. We're able to assist. My role basically oversees and works with other emergency service agencies in town to assist the community in preparedness and then response and recovery following disaster events. I really enjoy working and living in Gladstone. We have great facilities here. People are really friendly. Council's a really good organisation to work for. Everyone's really committed to the community. I mean, we're all residents. We want to see what's best for the community happening. I do quite a few sports in town, so use a lot of our sporting facilities, as well as involved in the community theatre space, so getting to use the GECC, which we're really lucky to have. I do the community musicals, so we've done, I've been involved in Anything Goes, Legally Blonde, Carrie, and then also do foster caring through GPAWS, which is one of the animal rescue groups. Emma Catlin, Disaster Response Specialist for Gladstone Regional Council.
Sign up to Council's disaster and weather event warning system. Receive alerts about emergency news, severe weather events and other public safety alerts via SMS or email. Registering to the disaster messaging system is free. To register, visit Gladstone Regional Council's Region Watch website and click on the Register for Warnings button. Get ready, Gladstone. Take the steps to protect what's most important to you. Let's be better prepared and protected for emergencies and disasters.
Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify.
I really like the variety because there's a lot of different parts of our region, and particularly in disaster space, I like that we're there for the community in kind of some of their worst times. We're able to assist. My role basically oversees and works with other emergency service agencies in town to assist the community in preparedness and then response and recovery following disaster events. I really enjoy working and living in Gladstone. We have great facilities here. People are really friendly. Council's a really good organisation to work for. Everyone's really committed to the community. I mean, we're all residents. We want to see what's best for the community happening. I do quite a few sports in town, so use a lot of our sporting facilities, as well as involved in the community theatre space, so getting to use the GECC, which we're really lucky to have. I do the community musicals, so we've done, I've been involved in Anything Goes, Legally Blonde, Carrie, and then also do foster caring through GPAWS, which is one of the animal rescue groups. Emma Catlin, Disaster Response Specialist for Gladstone Regional Council.
Sign up to Council's disaster and weather event warning system. Receive alerts about emergency news, severe weather events and other public safety alerts via SMS or email. Registering to the disaster messaging system is free. To register, visit Gladstone Regional Council's Region Watch website and click on the Register for Warnings button. Get ready, Gladstone. Take the steps to protect what's most important to you. Let's be better prepared and protected for emergencies and disasters.
Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify.
Well, thank you, councillors, thank you, officers, and welcome back to our gallery as well. Before we move on to the next item, which is 4.2, I'd like to, with the Chamber's approval, move item 4.5 forward. We have our Youth Council members here with us today. So 4.5 is the Youth Council Annual Report, and Holly and Matt are with us today, and I'd like to move that forward so they can carry on with their day as well.
Happy to move, Mayor, mate.
Thank you. I moved it, seconded by Councillor Churchill. All in favour? Motion is carried. Thank you. And over to you, Carly. Item 4.5.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor, and thank you, councillors. I'd like to welcome and introduce Holly Morton. She's our Vice Chairperson for the Youth Council, and also Matt Torres, who's a Youth Councillor, and Soraya, who's having a little chat over here. She's our youngest little Youth Councillor that comes to all of our meetings, so she's very good. I can also acknowledge that we have Kyle Weeks with us. You can't see him, but he's also another valued Youth Councillor. Thank you, Kyle. He's doing the live stream. So this year we've had 11 young people representing the Gladstone region in the 2024 Youth Council. I'd like to start by thanking them because they've done an incredible job this year, and also acknowledge the work that Melissa French has done, our Community Development Officer. The Youth Council, it's a big project that we take on in community development, and Mel's really led that work really well, so thank you. Their efforts this year have been really, truly inspiring, and their commitment to the community has been very significant. They've participated in areas in the social space, the cultural space, and the environmental space. And they've done a lot of initiatives that are quite unique that haven't been done before for the Youth Council. In addition to their annual work plan, they also undertook a strategic review of the Youth Council structure, and that's resulted in some changes which I think will have a really positive influence on the 2025 team. We're looking to now have a separate group for youth advocacy and also a separate group for event planning and participation and volunteering. So it's really, really great. Lisa's got some photos, and like a picture says 1,000 words. And this is just some of the great work that the council has done for this year. Their annual report is attached to this, and I hope you've all read it, and I urge the people in the gallery and at home to have a read through because it certainly outlines the achievements that they've undertaken this year. This group, the 2024 Youth Council, are a group of talented individuals who've been inspiring, and watching them grow as leaders and contributing so positively to the Gladstone region has been nothing short of amazing. So I'm really proud that these young people have been a part of our council and know that their futures will be very, very bright. Enough from me. I'd like to hand over to our youth councillors just to express in words what it's like to be a youth councillor, and also to talk about an achievement that they're most proud of this year. So we might start with Holly, if that's okay.
So I'm Holly. The greatest achievement that I've achieved this year would have to be being a mum, a single mum, studying, working, as well as doing the things that I do. So I've been able to advocate for mental health, youth crime. I've been able to make a difference in my community and be the voice for generations that don't get to have that opportunity. I have come from a background of low economic. I haven't had this great life growing up, and I've just wanted to make a difference for those coming through. That's probably the biggest achievement for me. And what it's like is it is very inclusive. It's very supportive. As you can see, Bub's here. She comes to every single meeting with no judgment. She has a lot of opinions, and it's just a very supportive, very, very supportive group of people. That's what it's like to be a youth councillor.
Thanks, Ollie.
Hello, I am Matt Torres. My probably biggest accomplishment is probably being able to put myself out there, because last year I don't think I was able to do that. Being in my graduating year, I think it's really important to put myself out there, and I just love that. Being part of the Youth Council helped me able to do that, and I was able to be part of a group where it's really inclusive and it's really out there for the youth, and we're able to be a voice just for the council, but also as the whole community. Yeah, that's about it. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you. I'd like to open the floor for any questions or comments from councillors.
Councillor Goodluck.
I'll just say it's great to welcome an actual baby into the chambers. Usually we just have to listen to Councillor Churchill carrying on like a baby, so... No, it's great, and it's great to see that you've got that ability to be inclusive and welcoming, and thank you for all your efforts over the year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wagner, and then there was one of you, Councillor Holzhammer.
I'm working on it.
Thanks for coming today, and the report was amazing. Thank you, Kylie, and the team as well. I had the pleasure of attending one of your meetings recently, and the group is absolutely amazing, so great job. I've had the pleasure of working with Holly on some studies this year, and she's an inspiration to us with a baby, and yeah, your future is really bright, and I think what I have seen is you grow and develop. In the time I met you earlier this year, we were at a Women in Leadership conference or presentation up at Rocky, and yeah, to see where you've come alone is, I think, for me, really worth having this youth council. And Matt, I believe that you're going on to big and better things and studying next year. Have you got your results back yet? And are you heading to where you wanted to go?
Yeah, I did get my results. I got a 96.25 ATAR. Thank you so much.
And are you off to Townsville?
I am off to Townsville if I get my offer in the 16th of January next year. So hopefully I do get into Townsville to study medicine.
Yep. Well done. Congratulations.
That's right, Matt.
And can I ask, Matt, too, being on the Youth Council would have been hard trying to get those high results. What has the Youth Council actually given you? You said that you were putting yourself out there. Has it done that? Like, do you feel more confident now than you were?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I feel like last year, if I were to compare myself last year to this year, Matt, I feel like I would be more proud of who I was this year because I was able to put myself out there, be a voice for the youth, and just be a voice for like our Youth Council. And I would like to thank the Youth Council for that. So yes, I have achieved what I wanted.
Excellent. And can I ask too, so English wouldn't have been your first language, is that fair to say?
It is, yes.
And how long have you been in Australia then?
I've been in Australia since 2014, so it's 10 years.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Your English is very, very good.
Thank you.
And yeah, it'll be interesting to see you now move on into medicine and be able to, I think the Youth Council probably helped you with that communication.
It has, yes, absolutely.
And be a really good doctor and come and support us in our old age. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councillor Wagner. I've got a few councillors lining up, but after you finish that degree, there'll be, I'm sure, a space for you at the Gladstone Hospital. Councillor Holzheimer, McClintock, and then Muscat. And then Patrick.
It's been lovely to meet you this year. My one question is if you could give us one piece of advice as councillors to consider for youth when making decisions, what would it be? I know, put you on the spot or what?
I thought about this before, and it's probably being more involved with us as youth councillors. I'm going to be honest, I always am brutal honesty. It's probably being a lot more engaged with us. Yes, coming to our meetings is good, but it'd be good to have a bit more input. It'd be good to have more connection and relationships with you guys as councillors. I was talking to Matt about this before. Going into next year, I think I'm going to be coming to some of these meetings just to see what it's like and see what's happening behind closed doors, so then I can share it with my councillors moving forward. Just to share that relationship, share that rapport with others. But that's probably mine.
I would say the same thing as to what Holly said. Being able to build the connections, not just like attending, putting your input. I feel like being able to network with all of you guys is really important to us youth councillors. So I think that would be one thing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McClintock.
Matt, I just heard that you have achieved quite a great result this year.
Yeah.
Congratulations. I think just further, we're heading into a new year, obviously, and I know that we've got I see in the report there's a new bunch of youth councillors proposed and have applied, and we've been interviewing those. Maybe, firstly, could you just give a piece of advice or maybe a little bit of reflection on how hard or how did you manage to achieve high results in your studies whilst being able to be a part of the Youth Council, and for people who are concerned about that balance and how you get that right?
Well, personally, I didn't find it quite as hard as as other people would say it would be hard, because I think I've always grew up to be studious. I was really focused in school. I think that's really important for me. Like, being able to put myself out there, yes, it was hard, but I think it was also quite easy with the transition of going into the Youth Council. So if I could give one advice, I think it would be to be yourself and study hard is one advice.
That's great advice. Love that. And I think probably the only other thought that I had or question I had reading through the report was just from your guys' point of view, and I know you're representing a greater group, but the changes that are coming in the coming year, how do you guys feel about those changes, and what are your reflections on what that'll mean?
For me, I feel like it will give more youth in our community an opportunity to share their voice, be their own advocate as well as their community's advocate. I feel like it will open up opportunities, and I feel like reflecting on the Youth Council this year and with my own experiences, I feel like it will give those that want to do the event management and organise an event that opportunity and solely focus on that, whereas it will also give people that are like me and want to advocate and want to make a difference and want to do that more formal meetings and that kind of stuff, that opportunity as well.
Yeah.
So it gives it two pathways. Yeah.
I have to agree with Holly with that one. It gives you two pathways. I think it's important as well that if with the formal meetings, being able to connect with not just the councillors but also the wider community is really important. So I love that you're changing that. And being able to create your own event as youth, being able to budget as a youth, and being able to create like this one big whole event for the whole community is really important, as it gives you like experiences that you never really would have in say other groups or like communities. So yeah.
Brilliant. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Councillor Muscat.
I'll just thank you, the team, Carly's team, Melissa. Thank you. If you can just pass also our thanks to the rest of the members and for your time. Obviously, it's also a volunteer position, and if you ever need anything, I know some of you might be going, others aren't going anywhere, or you might not longer be in the Youth Council, but we're always here to help you and support you if you need us. So please make use of that, because we really want to continue to support you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, Councillor Patrick. I just go in order when I see your hands raised. You can have them up second, as long as, if I don't see it till fifth, that's when you get to speak. Hey, you settle down. The right's had a fair say today.
Thank you, everyone, for letting me have a little talk to our youth members. Can I just say what a joy it's been from my point of view to be engaged with such enthusiastic, innovative, bright, passionate youth. You really make me proud. When I read this report, I looked at it and I just went, wow, look how much they have done, look how much they have achieved. And as a councillor, I am always of the belief you can't be what you can't see. And I hope that from the 12 months that you've had, you can see something else in yourselves that you can be. So with that, I thank you. I thank the team on behalf of everyone. Job well done, and look forward to great outcomes next year too. Thanks.
Thank you, councillors. I echo, obviously. I should have gone first, but I like to let the councillors have a say, as you probably heard this morning. I agree. Unreal. Well done. I can't believe it's been 12 months. Watching those photos, that year has flown by. So maybe my bit of advice is they're going to continue to fly by now. Little baby is going to be very grown up soon. So, yeah, hopefully we'll see some of the youth councillors back next year. It looks like we will. And I look forward to welcoming some new youth councillors as well to carry on your very, very good work. And councillors, I'd like to move the officer's recommendation that the report be received. I think it is. Thank you. A second, Deputy Mayor. All in favour? Thank you. It's carried, and thank you for your service. All right, councillors, we will move back into the general items. Thank you, Kylie. G 4.2. Expenditure approval, Trinity, Agnes Water, Water and Wastewater Utility Services, and I'll hand over or back to the General Manager of Finance, Governance and Risk, Mark Holmes. Thank you, Mark.
Good morning again, councillors and this item is with respect to our contract with Trinity. We look after essentially our water services within
the Agnes Williams 77 area. So this is around the financial delegation to execute the contract to extend for another 5 years the operations of that system. So this is provided for within the current contract, but just to execute the arrangement, we've just this is above the CEO's financial delegation, which is what's here.
Thank you, Mark. Yes, questions, please, Councillor Wagner. Oh, okay. Well, I have a mover. Can I get a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Holzheimer. Now, questions? Councillor McClintock.
Oh, I'll go. I thought someone else might ask some questions. Just a little bit of clarity. I'm trying to bring it up while you're speaking there. I've been jumping around this agenda all over the place this morning, and there's a fair few pages in it. Going off the top of my head, because I can't find my notes. Yeah, I'm looking for my comments as well. So this has obviously got a lot of history in it and involved in it that we, and a particular part of this room doesn't have, wasn't here for. So it's more just a clarification and a little bit of an understanding, I guess, of that process. It's been 10 years. I understand that there's a 5+5 on that, and looking at how that outworks, I just want a little bit of clarity. There's a comment there somewhere in the report that said about in 28th of July or something that it was formally advised that this would be going ahead. And how does that formal advisement go before a formal agreement from the boardroom and how that plays together? I understand there's delegation of the authority, is from what I understand it. Just trying to understand what are we doing here? Because if we say no, we really can't, because we're now saying we can't have water in Agnes. So we've kind of been put into a position here where we're not actually making a decision. We're actually deciding whether there's water in Agnes 1770 or not. And that's not really a decision that I don't think we have the permission to make, because that's not fair. But also what the report is kind of alluding to is we're giving permission to another 5 years, but we don't really get that permission to make that because of where it's come in play. Does that make sense? So I don't know what my question is, but I'm just trying to get understanding of how does that process work, and how does that not become a governance issue that we don't get to actually make that formal decision before it needs to be in place.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor McClintock. The advice triggers the negotiation for pricing, so we need the pricing to then bring that financial aspect to the council. So we've spent the 6 months working out with Trilogy.
Yep. Okay. I think, obviously, personally, I can't speak for the rest of the boardroom, but I don't have any reason not to agree with them or be any part of that. I just would love to have some sort I couldn't find much information on that side of the piece where, I'm confident that we explored whether they should have another 5 years or not, or whether we just sort of went through the motions and got to this. Not saying it didn't happen, just don't have probably that evidence that I'm looking for to say yes and be confident of that. Just for further note, that's all.
On that, what can we answer that as in terms of what other investigations we did on whether it's a fair value contract, or we didn't need to because it was just extending 5? And do we, before we extend the next 5, does it come to the boardroom before officers agree to a water price?
The key variable is in the maintenance costs. So we reviewed what they spent, and then requested that they start to forecast what they spend in the maintenance items they're going to spend on. And there are things such as cleaning out the outlet pipes out into the ocean there that weren't initially part of the original contract. This is work that we've discovered along the way. So we've had those negotiations, negotiated the fair price for that, and then ensured that fitted in with our budget for that.
Thank you. I've got Councillor Davis, then Councillor Churchill.
Thank you. Can I just clarify what a replacement toll is?
Replacement toll is the charge that Trilogy charge us to do maintenance. So to replace particular aspects such as pumps, filters, that sort of equipment that goes into operating a desalination and water sewage treatment plant.
Okay, so the maintenance is included in the pricing.
That's correct. The intent's to spread the cost of that over the course of the contract rather than be hit with peaks and troughs along the way.
Great, thank you.
Councillor Churchill.
Yeah, thanks for that. It's a simple yes or no. As such, I'm supportive of the motion. Are we cost neutral in our return on investment for water in Agnes Water 1770?
No.
Thank you.
Far from it.
Let's explain.
No. Okay, any further questions on this one? Thank you. Councillor Wagner.
That leads me to another question. If we're not cost neutral, how much is it costing council to provide the water services down there?
The cost to provide the water services down there is in the order of $3,500 a service. So we don't
For
recover
each
that per
resident?
service. So we don't cover that cost per service, per household. So we don't recover that cost fully. But we're on a price path with respect to increasing the level of contribution, but essentially that level at the moment, can't be funded. So essentially is funded through the balance of the budget.
So is that the provision of water, or does that take in the whole of life costs of the desalination plant, or how do we work out that
So
figure?
this is about your operation and maintenance. So when we're working at our pricing, it includes both the operations and maintenance of the desalination plant. It looks after our network side of our network maintenance costs. So there is work that our teams do down in the Agnes Water 1770 in maintaining the network of pipes, and also includes for the replacement as well, in terms of a depreciation estimate as well. So all that is included in coming up with that price.
Okay, thank you.
An asset you absolutely need to depreciate, unlike some others. Okay, I have mover and Councillor Wagner, second and Councillor Holzheimer. Any further comments or questions? Put the recommendation, all in favour. Motion's carried. Thank you, Mark. Okay, we'll move to the next item on the agenda is G4.3, monthly financial report for the period ending the 30th of November 2024. Back to you, Mark.
Morning. This item is your monthly financial statements through to the end of November 24, and incorporates our first major revision of budgets for the financial year, so with our first forecasting period. So you will note there has been, with that, essentially a reduction on the expected operating surplus for the year from 3 million to 1.1 million. And this report goes through identifying what those key variances are. So in operating revenue, we've seen essentially a net increase of 2.9 million across a number of areas. We've got the rates and utility charges, $2 million increase in fees and charges, but there is a significant part of that we'll talk about is actually an internal charge. So it's an internal fee that we're charging ourselves with respect to waste disposal and at both our wastewater treatment plant and also at Bunaraby landfill. But then there's also costs for work that's been essentially associated with that, and that's on the expenditure side. We've also got a little bit better interest revenue and also a little bit of additional income there from the RMPC. With respect to your operating expenditure, there's a $4.8 million unfavourable variance. So working through that, the biggest individual one there is your employee benefits. So there's a timing difference there with the implementation of the new certified agreement. So we have provided for, within the negotiation of that CA, our full amount in our long-term financial forecast over the 3 years. But with the negotiation there, we've ended up with a little bit more front-loading. There's also been some additional positions and also an increase in overtime. Also noted there is an increase in contractors' cost associated essentially with two of those items are significantly associated with essentially trucking costs. So we've got Yarwun wastewater treatment plant where we are trucking waste back to Gladstone for essentially processing, and so therefore we've got the contracting cost here. We're also got the waste and tipping fees associated with that, but we've got the income on the other side, and also with respect to Derby Street asbestos removal. So it was identified in previous years that we had a clean-up required of the Derby Street essentially works pad, which is essentially is opposite our Lion Street depot. Now essentially that work was planned. I think it was planned to actually be completed the previous financial year, but what we found is a lot of that is actually essentially spilled over into this current financial year just due to the availability of contractors and essentially the volume of the work there.
So that's actually seen $1 million flow through and it is essentially operational expenditure. With respect to our working through our capital, we are running behind where we would like to be, but still, when we compare where we've been in past years, $37 million spend at this time of year is a big capital spend. But unfortunately, our budget is $107 million, so that's a big task ahead of us. The team is still estimating that we will exceed that, so we'll work and we'll continue to work through that piece. With respect to our outstanding rates, essentially, probably for the very first times, we're actually not ahead of where we were this time last year, but very close to in line with where we were this time last year. But that's an ongoing conversation we need to have with our community in terms of that collection of rates. So we're sitting at 7.66% of outstanding rates, and at the same time last year was 7.3%. So there's some significant variances with respect to where we had anticipated with respect to when we adopted our budget, and happy to take questions with respect to those as we work our way through.
Thank you. Councillor Patrick, Councillor Wagner, then Councillor Davis.
Thanks, Mark, for that report. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge all the positive things in the report, with clawing back as much as we possibly can, so the 2.9 favourable operating revenue. However, my attention does go to the operating expenditure of 4.8 million, which is unfavourable, which are the variances. My first question to you is, so on that EBA uptake, is it correct that it will be 654? Is that
correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. So if that's correct, my next question lies with overtime. So we have budgeted around 700,000 for that year to date, but accumulatively we're sitting at 960. Is that right?
From an so what hits our operating statement? Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
So there is a balance of overtime, though, that's not in that figure. That actually is associated, that goes to our capital works as well. So that's additional overtime as well.
So do we know what is driving this upward trend?
I can tell you where our significant areas of work are that have highlighted those, and then certainly between our workshop, works in Lake Awonga Water and our roads, they are all significant spends. It is a little bit above where we were the same time last year. So this time last year we were at 914,000. So now we're at 960. So it is certainly a topic of conversation in terms of how we put downward pressure on that, and part of the work we're doing in our works delivery pieces about how we plan our work better, so we essentially don't end up in a situation where we have a lot of unplanned work, which generally ends up with work ending in overtime.
So my next, sorry, can I keep going? I've got quite a few questions here.
Fire away, it's your turn.
Sorry.
I made you go last a couple of times today, so you're
Thanks. So I'm just curious, with the new EBA that has been signed off on, and staff's working hours will be reduced, if the operation, if we're expecting our staff to do the same work on less hours, but they can't complete their work in less time, hence will there be more overtime, and then hence the continual rise of overtime?
Certainly, it's an area we're messaging in terms of the rollout of our certified agreement. We've made sure that we've been make sure to our leaders and to our staff that we essentially should be planning our work. We try to do that better and do it in a way that we're essentially not putting that. So as we implement that new certified agreement, moving from 76 hours a fortnight to 72 and a half, that we do that, and we plan our work accordingly within that. So there's not an expectation that automatically leads to overtime. But there certainly is obviously going to be some pressures from an operational perspective, and I'll hand over to John for that piece.
some context to the overtime that's on the sheet at the moment. Most of that is occurring in field-based tasks, not office-based tasks. So with a 24/7 coverage, some of that overtime is breakdowns, particularly in the water space where we've had trunk mains phase and things like that. Some of that in the road space is call-outs and where we actually plan to do work when there's less traffic on the road, such as night times and weekends for safety reasons. And some of that is purely to get through a workload. So in terms of the impact on the shortened workday, this is large pieces of work that's more than just what can be done within that workday itself. What Mark's referring to into the future is we start to actually plan those activities ahead of time with our maintenance planning group, and we're starting to build that capacity now.
Okay, thank you. Are we able to separate overtime from
Call-outs?
From call-outs, yes, so that we can be monitoring that on a monthly report?
We can separate out overtime from our employee as a separate component within our employee costs. Call-outs would have to probably have a look at how that works through, and I say that without trying to get too in the way our costing system works. All of those our overtime hours, which would include overtime and call-outs, would both be controlling to essentially the overtime natural account, which is how we understand what's in your 960 figure there for overtime. We can look at and work through how we control that separately, but we can absolutely call out the overtime piece and give greater context with respect to that.
Yeah, I think I would really get some comfort from that. I think it's something that we need to really look at seriously. And further on to that, I'm just wondering, through Matt, maybe, Madam CEO, a report could be given to councillors about the implementation of the new EBA and the workload piece to understand the possible opportunities to reduce overtime and less working hours. What does that look like?
Certainly we can provide that sort of a report. Just for clarity, the agreement hasn't been certified yet. There are some measures, including the reduction of the standard work hours, that has commenced, but there's a lot of components that haven't yet commenced. The agreement hasn't been certified, so there's a bit of a staggered approach to that. But we can certainly provide that to you. I was going to jump in before, but I think Mark answered it. We are absolutely not asking people to do the same amount of work in less hours. We match our resources with the time we have, with the work with the resources we have available. But we can absolutely provide regular reports on the implementation of the certified agreement.
Thank you. I just want to ensure that we're not having lots of overtime and we can be employing staff to be operationally efficient within our practice or within the organisation. So we're actually utilising our money to the best capacity that we can.
Sorry, if I may just add, there are some roles and some functions we undertake within council that are budgeted with overtime components. They're essential parts of the way we do some work, and it's information that I've been trying to get more clarity on as to what do we plan for that will always happen regardless. This is the standard amount of overtime. What you're talking about, what's the call-out component, and we're trying to work around community and safety, different elements of that. So I've been asking similar questions to those that you have, so you can see more granularity in that coming through. But I think it's important to recognise there is an unavoidable element of overtime that we must work. And I think what I'm hearing you say, the questions I'm asking, what is that amount?
That's correct.
And what's the extras and how can we manage that?
Sure, thank you. I do have another question.
Fire
I'm sorry,
away.
I'm on a roll with this today. Of all days, so I might as well speak more. Mark, also in the report, I have noticed the Derby Street removal as well. You made comment that that was an identified piece of work from last year, is that right, which is rolled over? I'm just wondering, was that in our budget line that we should have been over? Like, so that it should have been in the budget, that we should have actually put budget in for that to happen, seeing as it was identified last year?
From from a budget perspective, there was actually planned to do that work last year, and so from an OPEX perspective, we believed it was in budgeting perspective, we thought it was actually in last financial year's anticipated position. So when you adopted your budget, what's end up being the case is that hasn't occurred, and that work has slipped into the current year. So that's part of these. So it's a little bit like some of the carryovers we have from a capital perspective. When we anticipated the work was going to be completed by 30 June, this stuff wasn't, and it's carried into this year. It's just so it's an operating version of some of the issues we experience with capital. Sometimes the work is just carried over.
So how do we ensure that type of thing doesn't keep reoccurring?
It's just that better building of the budget and better working with our ops teams to make sure we've got identifying those items that are going to carry forward.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wagner.
Yeah, thanks for that, Mr Mayor. Yeah, and I understand that, especially if it's late in the year and our budget's pretty much set, it's a bit hard to, I suppose, carry those over. Like Councillor Leanne, I am a little bit concerned about, I mean, a 6% certified agreement, great for staff, that's great, but it's well above what inflation is. I'm deal with it, but I'm not comfortable with it. Overtime increases as well. I get that we have emergency works that's going to do it. I am also concerned about a reduction in hours because that does mean more staff. And when you've got more staff, there are actually more costs than giving people extra hours sometimes. So I do urge the CEO to have a really good look at that because I'm seeing also that we've got new positions at the cost of $612,000. We went through restructures, several restructures where we did bring staff back, but when we're looking at the figures, they do appear to be increasing again, which is great if we need them. But if we're going to then reduce hours, how is that going to impact on our numbers again? So I just urge that we have a really good look at that because I am extremely concerned with how that's going to impact on our bottom line as well. And that was probably my only comments, so thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Davis.
Thank you. The 612 induction of the new positions, was that in the budget, Mark?
Yep, so there was some lump sum figures that were identified as part of some of the increases, and we were unsure as to how we're going to outwork those.
Okay.
And some of them were actually about identifying where we were, and because when we have been reviewing obviously that overtime figure as an executive, we worked through, there are some positions that are better off coming in as full-time equivalents rather than paying overtime. Okay. So there's some of them that have resulted from that work as well. So there is several that were not considered as budget, but some of these were.
Okay.
Yeah.
And my other question with the overtime, was any of that overtime caused by the explosion, obviously down on the highway?
Yeah, it's around about 35,000.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sorry, Councillor Goodluck, then Councillor Churchill.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. And the questions around, overtime and working hours are all valid, and we should look at that. But I just wanted to point out as well that part of the reason that we look to try and implement some of these initiatives is because we're also in we've got a skills shortage across the nation, as we all know, and Gladstone's no exception. Council's never been able to compete with the wages and, that others might be able to earn at the port or at big industry or, not so far away in mines. There's lots of other players that can offer more money than what our council's able to pay. But so what we also have to be conscious of is our value proposition as a whole. And sometimes that might be, we can't offer you the really extravagant wages, but we can offer you a really great work-life balance, and that's what attracts people to come and work for council. So there's a holistic look at those issues as well, and it's around the attraction and retention of our workforce, so we can get the work done that needs to be done in our community.
Thank you, Councillor Churchill.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Matt. Simple yes or no. In light of the good work that Mark Francis has been doing, and we've been doing some marvellous work with asset management and delivery of capital works. you confident, optimistic we'll deliver the extra 70 million in capital works by the end of this financial year?
You're asking the accountant or the...
Look, the team that we've got every piece underway in terms of how we actually deliver that. I think we'll go a lot closer this year in terms of than we were previously. So I sit as chair of the Capital Portfolio Working Group to make sure we've got all the stakeholders involved in terms of how we deliver the work. So as I sit here now, I think we're well placed to go very close to that 100%.
If I can, Mayor. We've got around about 75% of our programme this year active. That means it's either being executed or at procurement and tender stage, which is a good place to be in, backing up the 35 odd million that you have to the end of this statement period as well. So it may be naive optimism, but there is optimism that we'll go close. We're also obviously going to be subject to the vagaries of the climate and the supply chain and everything else. So it's no guarantees, but we're going to go close.
So I take that as nearly yes.
No guarantees, but we're going to go close.
Go close. Very close.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Churchill. Councillor McClintock.
A couple of other little points. Just wanted to clarify, just to emphasise, I guess, what Councillor Goodluck's point was around the work-life balance and what we have to offer. That's exactly the way that I see it. And I guess I hear and want to further like the concern that you mentioned before about getting through the workload and requiring to do some of that overtime because we've got to get through the workload. I guess we want to make sure that if we are trying to offer people a work-life balance, and that is one of the draw cards that we've got, we need to then make sure that we can back that up in some capacity and not tell them they're going to have a certain shorter week and then expect them to work more, because I don't see that helping them. That's we've talked about that enough, but I guess the other little concern that's already been raised is you use the word slipped into this budget for $1 million expenditure. That's a bit of a crash tackle more than a slip, I would say. How does that go from a governance point of view? I mean, it's and it might be totally okay. I just want to understand it personally. It was approved in the previous budget. It wasn't done, and then it's come into this budget here, but it's not a part of our current budget. So does that mean it required some level of? How did that work? Because it was work that was previously identified.
Yep. And so working through when we build the budget, we have conversations basically consistently with our operations team as to what work where are we going to finish as at 30th of June, and what work is essentially then planned within that. This wasn't a piece of work that had been flagged as part of that. And part of that further understanding is that it was work that we had thought was going to be finished essentially within those budgets by 30th of June, last year, 24, this year. So it was work. So unfortunately, that has slipped into this one. Into this. So therefore, it's a timing difference, no different than some of the other vagaries we talked about with respect to capital, due to the availabilities of contractors and the like. That work has slipped because it essentially is trunk. Yeah. So it has moved from a timing perspective from one essentially 30th of June is a hard cutoff. So that works through. But no, we work closely with respect to we've got business partners that work with all the business units, and we break our operations into three. Because that is a very large business unit, and we try to understand very much what's part of each of those areas.
So my question is, how does that come into a budget without it being in the budget? Because
it was already approved.
It's work that's already started, so once we got to particular milestones on the job, we had to continue it because we're actually exposed asbestos to.
Yeah, totally okay with the work that was done in the sense of it needed to be done, and that's totally okay. My questioning is more around the element of risk that we have here of other unidentified things when we're talking about just a casual $1 million slipping into another thing. It's not just a little piece of work. This was a significant piece of work. And how do we, where's the level of control that we've got over any other identified works that need to be done? It's a big number. I'm struggling to understand how it just gets done without being in the current budget or needing to go through to clarify that.
Yeah, so this was work that was, as I said, was identified, and we worked with the, but unfortunately it wasn't identified when we've had those conversations with those relevant managers through the process, and therefore it has moved into this year. This is our first chance to pick up these items and bring them forward. So when we go through essentially our forecast process, so we're sitting down and going through with the entire business, we essentially have that opportunity about 3 times a year. So this is the first chance we have with respect to that to really identify those. The planning the work and getting those pieces will actually help with that and identify that and make sure they're plugged in.
Yeah, I'm not sure I quite got my answer that I'm looking for, but I'll leave it there.
I don't know if it helps, but we're managing a very large budget and managing the bottom line. We're highlighting to you when these reports come through where some variances are, but when you adopt your budget, you're also adopting that budget plus the next 3 years. So it is giving that latitude. We want to stick as closely as we can to what you've seen in the budget, and we need to be very careful that we deliver the things you're expecting, but to manage with that level of granularity when there are changes like this, it would be very difficult to do expediently. So I don't know if it helps, but we're managing the bottom line. We're bringing to you saying, here's some changes, and I'm going to be working very hard with my team to claw back to the surplus that we were anticipating to have. This is where we are now. We've had some ups and downs, and we want to work really hard to deliver what we committed to. So I don't know if that answers your question. So there isn't a process we have currently to bring in when we have an issue like this to say, do you approve us spending this money here or not? We do have other processes administratively, but if that's something that Council wants higher levels of control of, that's something we could certainly talk about. But that's the practice of how we've operated.
Yeah, I guess it's not about whether the work needed to be done, and this is a serious health issue, and there was some great work done there, I believe that. It's just, understanding from my point of view how we make sure that we manage that, because then those sort of numbers start to affect whether we make other decisions and where we're going to expend other funding, and so it just, the fact that this can just happen in there without any level of conversation was just, I couldn't understand that. But a couple of other things that are not super important, but some really good stuff in there as well. Obviously, I know we're trying to pick on a few little pieces there, but some really great work that's been done, some really great overachieving, I think, in certain areas of that report by many parts of our business, and I just want to commend those that have been staying ahead of the curve and doing what they can to help us bring this together, so I appreciate it.
Thank you. Councillor Goodluck, then Councillor Muscat.
I'll make a couple of comments about what Simon said. Is that okay? I just wanted to comment on what Councillor McClintock said. And I guess that's why we have monthly financial reports. So there is, and that's why it's also important. So, you just said that now. Well, I hope we can remember it next time we decide to change our mind and spend money on this or that and make reactive decisions, because a lot of the stuff that I guess changes is also driven by the boardroom a lot of the times. So obviously there's unexpected expenses or things that change, and that is also why we need to look at some of those ratios and see that our financial position is strong, so then the risk is minimised when these things happen. And it will go the other way as well. So, but I think it's a great point that you made, and that's why it's so important to have the financial monthly reports, as well as every time we make a decision, to understand how it affects the rest of the budget.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Goodluck, you were moving the motion, I believe.
Happy to move the motion. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Seconder, please. Thank you, Councillor Patrick. All in favour? That's carried. Thank you, Mark. The next item is G4.4, which is the Animal Inspection Program. Acting General Manager of Customer Experience, Ali Moore. Can I have a mover for the officer's recommendation?
Yes, move to make it happen.
Thank you, Councillor McClintock. Seconded, Councillor Churchill. All in favour? Thank you. Welcome, Mark. Merry Christmas, Mark. Councillors, the next item on the agenda is G4.6, which is a lease renewal for the Gladstone Boxing Club. I propose we manage all item 4.6 to 4.12 in total, but please can the officers sit down, because I have a question about 4.10 as to why dot point 2 is missing, and if that's meant to be in there.
Dot point 2 is certainly meant to be in there. It was an agenda creation issue that we didn't pick up until after it was published.
Okay, so 4.10 is meant to have dot point 2, which is the same as all the others, with the exception of Ozcare, which was 3 years plus 3 years. The rest are 10-year leases. This is something we've been looking to have in place for a very long time. I thank the officers for bringing them to the table, and I think all clubs and associations will be very grateful for this decision today, and I would like to move them in total if I'm allowed.
No, sorry.
Right. I'll start with 4.6. Officers, if I could hold any commentary. Councillors, any questions, councillors? Can I have a mover for 4.6, please? Councillor Goodluck, Councillor Wagner, all in favour? Motion's carried. Any questions around 4.7? Move Councillor Muscat, seconded Councillor Patrick. No questions, all in favour? It's carried. G4.8, lease renewal for Benarabi Motorsports. Any questions? No questions. Move Councillor Churchill, seconded Councillor Wagner. All in favour? It's carried. G4.9 is a lease renewal for Ozcare. It's a different timing for this one, but it's a similar outcome. Any questions? Do you have a question? Thank you. Councillor Wagner.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This one here, like all the others, I know not-for-profit, what have you, is this a business or is it it is a not-for-profit? Okay, that's all my only question.
Ozcare.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah.
I'll move it.
Thank you. Councillor Wagner moves, seconded Councillor Davis. No further questions? Is that a question, Carm? All in favour? Carried. Yes. G4.10, I'll move the officer's recommendation with the inclusion of point 2, which which were copied from the other ones. Seconder, please. Thank you, Councillor Holzheimer. Any further questions? Put the motion, all in favour. It's carried. G4.11 is the BITS AFL and the Cricket Club lease renewal. Thank you, Councillor McClintock. Moved. Yeah, you have had enough. Seconded, Councillor Goodluck. Any questions, councillors? No questions. I put the motion, all in favour. Motion's carried. G4.12 is lease renewal for Tenham Sands Rugby League seniors. Mover, Councillor Churchill. Seconded, Councillor Davis. Any questions? No questions. I put the motion, all in favour. It's carried. Thank you, team. And we really appreciate the work you've done to make this happen. Yeah.
May I just ask a quick one? Is there any more, as in, do you see, what are the remainder of the list that I know we have a bit of a backlog or things we're working through? Roughly, just to...
Off the top of my head, I actually don't have the figure. It was in our councillor information session.
Yeah, okay.
On the sheet there. I do have a number of reserve renewals also being progressed at the moment, but they don't come to council. So we have probably some more coming in February, I think.
Great,
yeah.
Thank you.
Just a few.
Thank you for your work.
Thank you, councillors. We now move to the next item on the agenda, which is councillor reports. Any councillor reports? Yes, I have Councillor Patrick, then Councillor Wagner.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. It's been a very busy year for 2024, and as this is the last meeting for the year, I just wanted to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas and a happy and safe New Year. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Patrick. Councillor Wagner.
And I have this one here that I can send to the ladies too, so they don't have to type it all up if they wish. I had the pleasure and very thankful to council and my colleagues for sending myself, and I think I can speak on behalf of Councillor McClintock, and the Mayor also attended on behalf of his position on the Australian Local Government Association. We went to the 2024 National Local Roads Transport and Infrastructure Congress at Margaret River in Western Australia recently. A total of 220 local government leaders and engineering and work staff from across Australia gathered there to have the conference between the 3rd and 4th of December. It was a wonderful venue, and one of the highlights for me was the Wandandi and Pilbara peoples. They did the Welcome to Country. It was the best I've ever seen. It really showed that there was a good relationship and respect between Margaret River Council and also the traditional owners. It was very inspiring, and I wish I would have videoed it, to be quite honest. This year's Congress included a significant focus on road safety. Congress delegates acknowledge the local governments manage more than 75% of Australia's road network and have a key role to play in addressing Australia's unacceptable national road toll. One of the messages that came out of that, the biggest message, was that speed does kill, and the statistics supported that. And we also saw plenty of examples where speed reductions of even 10 kilometres were saving lives. And I think looking at the statistics that we have in our region, I think there's some learnings for us and I suppose some discussions hopefully down the track in that. Delegates acknowledged the importance of prioritising road safety in infrastructure investments and discussed opportunities to deliver safer roads in regional and urban settings. Sustainable funding is a significant barrier, and the ALGA promised to continue to advocate for more federal support for councils to improve the conditions, safety and productivity of Australia's road network. Several federal politicians addressed the conference, including Minister for Local Government, the Honourable Christy McBain, and Shadow Minister for Infrastructure, Transport and Regional Development, Senator the Honourable Bridget McKenzie. This year, Congress included sessions on improving freight productivity, decarbonising Australia's transport sector, water management, regional airports, addressing the housing crisis, renewable energy transition, the circular economy, and active transport and electric vehicle trends. The event also covered effective asset management, which is vital to the broad range of services and functions delivered by Council. Margaret River's infrastructure and the conference were truly a credit to the foresight of the Council there. Thanks again to Council and my colleagues for sending us to the conference. A lot of learnings, and hopefully there'll be a lot of sharings to happen as a result of going to that conference.
Thank you, Councillor Wagner. Thank you for your report. Councillor Churchill.
Thanks, Mayor Matt. Just a quick question to Councillor Wagner, Councillor McClintock and yourself, Mayor Matt. Will we be getting a written report from the National Roads Conference at some stage, as per policy?
We've got the communique, which is basically the report, but Councillor Wagner just presented that. I'm sure a verbal report, as good as that was, because it was very thorough, is good. If you would like it emailed, I'm sure it's possible to be emailed.
Well, I think it would be important to be put on the agenda, because it's not just for our information. This is the information of the people that take an interest in what we do, and we go away to these various summits, conferences, etc., so that they have a great understanding of the benefits and the outcomes that can come as a result of that information sharing.
I'll make sure that all councillors get a copy of the communique. Are we able to include that in the minutes, Tanya?
Councillor reports are included in the minutes, usually in summary form, but we can include word for word. And if any councillor attends a conference and would like assistance in preparing a written report, we're more than happy to help facilitate that.
That'd be terrific, thank you. I'd just like to make a quick reference back to Councillor Goodluck's comment about me earlier today, and I take that as I take it as a compliment. In actual fact, I take it as a wonderful term of endearment, Councillor Goodluck, that you recognise me as a city crier, because that's what it is. And I just thought that I might share with you and colleagues that the benefits of a city crier, the primary function and the benefit, is that it's an excellent way to get people to stop, pay attention, understand and be a great advocate to ensure that they are receiving important messages right across the city and the region. In light of saying that, I'd like to do a bit of town crying for an important event that was held over the weekend. The Gladstone Performing Arts Company presented the wonderful Robin Hood and the Babes in the Woods, and I'm sure each and every one of you would agree that the production for those, and I had the opportunity to do the official opening on the night for GPAC. It's been a labour of love, and thanks to the wonderful talented cast and crew. We really do have a significant amount of talent within our own backyard here that has not only been developed over a period of time, and the Gladstone Performing Arts Company's contribution to the cultural, entertainment and recreational vibrancy of our great region. But in light of saying that, if I could just make reference to, it's not only the performing artists, but it's the shows, the rehearsals, the costumes, the makeup and that social glue that brings them together. And congratulations to Hannah Waddle, the director, and the stage manager, Kerry Burt, the executive producer, and many others adding to our vibrancy. And the large cast and crew that were there to make sure that it was a great delivery. And my final comment is not only from a Gladstone Performing Arts Company perspective, but understanding that the cast and the crew, they come from so many different backgrounds: teaching, mentoring, engineering, administration, dentistry, hospitality, community transport, and even our own local council have people from our council who are playing an active part in the Performing Arts Company and our Gladstone region. So it was a successful show. Well over 700 tickets sold for the show, and in our eyes of council, I believe that each and every one of them are stars. So we look forward to their next production, and we look forward to the Gladstone Performing Arts Company finding a permanent home for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Churchill. Before I wrap the council meeting up, I would also like to say to our council team, our officers, our gallery, and to our Gladstone Regional Council community, very Merry Christmas. All the best for 2025. It's been a long year, but I hope that your holiday, or your break, if you're having one, is a safe and happy one, or a merry one. But I also want us to say, particularly if they're watching online, and I know many of them won't be, to our staff at the Gladstone Regional Council, I look forward to acknowledging you over the next 2 days for your hard work in our community over the last 12 months. It's not gone unnoticed by the boardroom, although it sometimes goes unnoticed by the community. We absolutely respect you, each and every one of you, and thank you for your hard work. And I wish you, particularly, a very Merry Christmas, and I declare the meeting closed at 12:27. Thank you.